what that is. That's actually a very clear predecessor to Altspace. The
Yeah.
idea of a community, an online community with avatars, rather as opposed to like Zoom with video realism,
Yeah.
actual cameras.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. And I have a buddy who's in the publishing business with me who every Friday night played a gig in Second Life, playing his guitar and singing, and he had a tip jar, and people would come in and they just give him in the Second Life world the currency's called lindens, and they just give him lindens, but they equate to real money. So he'd make a couple $100 just for sitting playing his guitar and singing.
Interesting. So Altspace doesn't have a native currency or
Oh, they don't.
any currency to speak of.
Oh.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Altspace, being 3D and all that is VR is really
Yeah,
way.
it's a different thing.
Yeah, but I'm only a 2D guy right now, so it feels kind of like Second Life, but it's really cool. So I think I'm excited for what you're going to show us and
Cool.
everybody that's in here. If you're already part of this world, it's just really kind of an awesome time. I'm ready to port in, man. I want to put the port in right here.
Yeah, just the shunt, right there
Yep,
at the
that's,
top of the
I
spinal
do
cord.
it in a heartbeat. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's my
You're a biohacker, huh?
exactly.
There's
Sign
a book where that was called the Microsoft.
the Microsoft.
Was it
In,
beef?
in a John Shirley book, you jack in with a Microsoft.
Ah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, and then in the Matrix, they actually in the movie they actually had that
Yeah.
gross thing there. Matt
Yeah.
Klassen, he's himself
All
again.
right. So it is 6 p.m. Shall I go ahead and start things off?
Sure.
Go ahead and get going. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here at our September Pacific Northwest section meeting for the Audio Engineering Society. I'd like to welcome everybody to our event. We have a really exciting event planned for you this evening that's going to focus on some new technology related to virtual and augmented realities that will be presented by Lawrence Schwedler and Matt Klassen. I'll introduce, actually, now would be a fine time to introduce them. So I'll go ahead and actually, before I do my introductions, I'm going to talk about our upcoming meetings. So I do want to let you all know that you're all invited to next month on October 20th. We're planning our next meeting. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Pacific time on October 20th, as I mentioned. And it's going to be focused all about metadata for audio. So if you're not familiar with that, that is data about audio files, like the artists who make them and the producers who worked on them, the engineers that they worked on them. And we've got a wonderful panel that will be moderated by our own committee member, Jim Rondinelli from Immersion Networks. And Jim will be working with a panel consisting of Dick Huey from JAXTA, Vicky Naumann from Cross Border Works, and Maureen Droney, producer and engineer with the Grammys, and potentially more. So it's going to be a really great meeting. If you're eager to learn more about metadata, please join us. Again, that's October 20th at 6 p.m. And we are going to be online doing that on Zoom. So stay tuned for that. And then the following month, November 11th, also at 6 p.m. Pacific time, we are going to be treated by a presentation by the engineer Tom Fine. And Tom will be talking to our section in November about his work on the Mercury Living Presence series of recordings. So again, that's November 11th at 6 p.m. with Tom Fine. So if you're interested in classic recordings, classical recording in general, or maybe just curious about learning more about classical recording, that meeting will be a really interesting and fine example of techniques and production techniques for classical recordings and beyond. I think that covers the our upcoming meetings. And also on a technical note, I'd like to talk about the format of this meeting this evening. We're of course starting out here on Zoom, and we're going to start out with our introductions, of course. But from there, the meeting is actually going to migrate to Altspace VR. And when you registered for this meeting, you should have received some instructions about how to get that set up. If for some reason that you weren't able to do that, that's okay, because we will be including a YouTube link to where you can watch a live stream of the presentation and the event that follows on YouTube. If you were able to get Altspace up and running, then you will be invited to migrate to Altspace. At that point in time, we're going to keep this Zoom meeting going, but not much is going to be happening. We won't be having conversation on here. We're going to be watching the stream and listening to the presentation. When the presentation in Altspace VR concludes, there's going to be a 15-minute social event within Altspace for all the people that are participating in Altspace. And that is going to be taking place in a virtual lobby that's been created that is it is a simulation of a real building that's nearby in Redmond, Washington at the DigiPen Institute of Technology. And so we'll be learning more about DigiPen and their relationship to the recent AVAR conference, and learning a little bit more about how that came to fruition, that virtual space. So I'll let Lawrence and Matt talk about that to you. So there's going to be about a 15-minute social event that follows the presentation, and then we're going to migrate back. We're going to migrate back and get everybody all together here on Zoom after that. So I know that that's a little bit of a different experience than what we've had in months before, but it should be a really rewarding experience for everybody to check out what's going on in Altspace. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our guest speakers this evening. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Matt Klassen. Matt Klassen is a professor of both music and mathematics at DigiPen Institute of Technology. He specializes in mathematics in the fields of number theory and algebraic geometry. In addition, Matt is a wonderful musician. He's an avid classical guitarist and even plays the theorbo, a 14-stringed relative of the lute. So an early instrument that's a very large stringed instrument. And I have the wonderful opportunity to be able to work with Matt at the DigiPen Institute of Technology, and I just really have valued his friendship and collaboration along the way. So really excited to have you here tonight, Matt.
Thank you, Greg.
Our next presenter, our additional presenter, will be Lawrence Schwedler. Lawrence has been a musician for a great deal of time. He has a Master of Fine Arts in Classical Guitar Performance and Electronic Music from the University of California at Los Angeles. And Lawrence was a founding member of the Modern Arts Guitar Quartet. So also an exceptional and talented classical guitarist. From 1999 to 2012, Lawrence worked as an audio director for Nintendo Software Technology in Redmond, Washington, where he produced music and sound for 15 game titles and received credit as a co-author for 2 US patents, one for interactive real-time music composition and another for interactive wavetable sound generation. In 2012, Lawrence left Nintendo to design and direct 2 new undergraduate degree programs in music and sound design at the DigiPen Institute of Technology in Redmond. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this time over to both Lawrence and Matt to maybe help us with the migration experience over to Altspace.
Sure. I need to add one thing to your introduction is that Matt Klassen was my collaborator in the design of the 2-degree programs at DigiPen. The founder of the school, Claude Comer, asked Matt, he said, I want 2-degree programs, one in audio content creation, music and audio, and one in audio programming. Find somebody for me that you can work with to make this happen. So the programs are every bit as much a Matt's creation as they are mine. But we're stoked to have you all try this whacked experiment, right, Matt, that we're about to do here. We're all, those of us who are able to are going to join us in either virtual reality or a 2D version of it via AltspaceVR. And Matt,
Right.
I don't know, why don't you say a few
Yeah.
things about how this came about?
Yeah, I guess in terms of getting the, should we say a little bit about the conference, or do we want to just say that all for inside?
Yeah, a few words might be appropriate. Just give people context about why we're having this wacky meeting, really, because it's bigger than just Altspace.
We did host the what was actually the second international conference on audio for virtual and augmented reality. We hosted that at DigiPen in 2018, and that was Lawrence and myself, and then we partnered up with our colleague at Princeton University, Edgar Schwery, who many of you have probably heard him speak at various times at DigiPen as well. He's a 3D audio expert. And at that time in 2018, we held the conference here in person, of course, just over 2 years ago. And this was our second hosting of the conference, which of course we discovered halfway through setting it up that in fact it would not happen in person. We were pretty much ready to cancel it and just kind of bail on doing this in I guess March, and then one of our committee members, Sally Kellaway at Microsoft, suggested, well, why don't you guys take a look at AltspaceVR and just check it out. It's a social media space. It might work for a conference. And
famous last words.
Yeah, it turned out to be an incredible adventure, mostly terrifying and nerve-wracking. But as we'll show you or as we'll talk about inside the space, it did actually work in the end, which was really kind of surprising and wonderful for us. So that was the kind of the progression up to this conference, which was then just held in last August, held virtually inside AltspaceVR, where we could have people giving talks and having chats and appearing as avatars in these rooms together for the conference.
And it might behoove us at this point to talk a little bit about how we're going to do this, or how we hope to try to do this. So everybody here in the meeting, with the exception of, I think we've asked Gary Louie to stay behind and make sure nobody walks off with the equipment from the Zoom meeting. But everybody else is going to go to one of two places. You're either going to go, and I urge you, I ask you, I beseech you to quit the Zoom meeting. Don't just leave it running. Quit Zoom once I tell you to, not yet. And you're going to go to either Altspace, which you're going to launch the app, and you had to have already registered with us to get into our event. So if you didn't register and give us your username, don't do that, because you'll get there and you won't find us. But for everybody else who's not doing that, Greg is going to put a link up in the Zoom chat right now, right, Greg? That's a link to YouTube. And what this will be a live stream from within Altspace VR. And one of our Sound Lab, DigiPen Sound Lab team members here, Mike Bachman. Where are you, Mike? There, I see Mike Bachman. There he is. Mike will be joining us in Altspace. He will also, where we all have avatars, you won't see us like this. We'll have these little cartoonish little characters. And Mike is our cameraman. He's our guide. So he will be, everything he sees will be streamed live, and everything he hears in Altspace will be streamed live to YouTube at this link that Greg is going to post. So if you can't join us in Altspace, please follow the YouTube link and then crank up the sound. The meeting there is going to take place in two parts. We're going to start in the AES PNW meeting space, okay? This is going to sound like code to those of you who haven't gone into Altspace, but when you get there, under meetings, my meetings, my events, excuse me, events, my events, there will be one that's green. It has the AES banner. Look for the AES logo, and it says AES PNW section meeting. You're going to enter that event, and that's where we'll be for the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Matt and I have a slide presentation for you, including a video clip. And it's a theater space, so you'll walk into the theater, take a seat. We'll help you with all that. We're going to be there for 20 or 30 minutes, and then we're going to take a cool magic teleporter that's right by the coat room, and we're going to all teleport to the DigiPen lobby. And this is it's a simulacrum of the campus first floor, and that's where we want to hang out for 15 minutes, because that's the part of the meeting that Matt and I think is the most important part. For those of you who will be joining us, you can actually have natural conversations. It's not this stilted Zoom thing where my audio cuts your audio out and stuff. It's a really cool experience, and we hope to just congregate there for maybe 15 minutes and schmooze a little bit, multiple conversations like you would in a real conference. And that's really the heart of what we want to show you. So unless there's anything else, Greg or Matt, I say we head on out to cyberspace.
Yep.
One quick announcement is that and you may have already said this, but I'll reiterate it. You will need to put on headphones when you get into Altspace. So make sure that you have headphones on once you get there.
Otherwise, we're going to mute you because you'll be creating a delayed echo for everybody else. You won't hear it, but everybody else will hear it. It's really horrible. So headphones, please.
All right, great.
See you there.
Okay.
See you in Altspace. Everybody who's got it, launch the app.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me? Looks like that's Noel. You might be muted. I don't know. I'm hearing some background noise, but I'm not hearing you. Mike Bachman, can you say something? Oh, is that Mike or Noel?
That was Mike.
That was Mike. Oh, now I can hear you both. Good. Cool.
Yep.
Great.
I've almost forgotten what you really look like. This is what you look like now. It's been so long. How are things?
Yeah, it's great to see you. Good. A lot of work. Yeah, pretty busy.
So Noel, is there a lot of background noise happening behind you, coming through your?
Let me see. I have to take off my noise
At the
canceling
beginning
headphones.
of September.
Okay. On point, Pablo. Come on over here. And you too, Greg. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there's our cameraman, Mike. I'm hearing you, Matt, but I don't see you anywhere. Are you in the theater with your amplified voice?
Well, you might just want to mute, just so we don't have that coming in.
Where is
Do you hear me?
Great, thank you.
Yes, Bill. Hi, Bill.
Oh.
Billy Bang
Hey,
Bang.
man. How
How's
you
it going,
doing?
man? Ooh, look
Yeah,
at you.
awesome, man.
Look at you. You've
Well,
been working
I changed
out,
my clothes.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while. Yeah, I kind of buffed up a little bit.
There we go. That's better.
Bill Gibson. This is.
Hey, Greg.
This is Pablo Hoffman. Pablo, this is Bill Gibson. He's on the AES with us. Pablo's
Pablo.
at the
Hey,
Facebook
Bill.
Reality Labs.
Just
He's
to make it.
spatial audio specialist. I don't know how is that correct? Is that?
Yeah, I'm a
Related,
research
etc.
scientist at Facebook Reality Lab.
Cool. Very cool. I don't have any hands where I wave to you.
Yeah, we're
That's-
in 2D mode. So
That's
so
funny
you've
how
got
natural
your
this
you've got
feels.
the Quest, right?
After
Pablo?
having
Yeah,
spent so
I'm
much
using the
time
Quest.
here.
But
So I'm wondering where Matt is. I'm going to go on in here and see if I can find
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Matt?
Go check it out too.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Oh, you have amplified my voice on. That's what it is. Okay.
I do. Sorry.
All right. No, that's all right. You should do that. I just kept hearing you out there, and I was like, what's going on?
I actually had placed my avatar in here before the Zoom meeting.
Ah, okay. There we go. My voice is amplified. All right.
Good.
Hey,
We've
Matt.
got a few bodies in here.
Yeah, we got
Hey,
some people.
Hey, Pablo. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
I see Greg
Are
Dixon.
you in on your quest?
I'm on my quest. That's
Yeah, I
right.
can see
Hey,
I can
Bill.
see your hands moving. That's good.
Hey.
Cool.
Hey, Greg.
Oh, and everybody, in case you're new to this space, make friends. If you hover over somebody, add them as a friend. It's really great because then whenever you're in Altspace at the same time, they'll show up on your friends list and you can just go to wherever they are. It's an easy way to navigate around. So at the conference, we befriended sort of everybody. So now I've got like
Awesome.
150 friends in Altspace. It's a nice way of getting around.
Oh, I see. And if there's a check.
There's
mark, you
Steve. Hey,
accept
Steve Turnage.
Yes, hi there.
And there's Jess. Hi, Jess.
Hi, how's
it. And
it
is
going?
it Noel that
Good.
Hey,
How are
welcome.
you?
Welcome
Doing
back.
great, thanks.
You're looking good. You're so stylish, man. I just like look at you got cool duds.
See,
Thanks.
I like the
I
hat.
wore the same, I wore the same thing to Burning Man. It works for both.
It's a nice, yeah. How long did it
Yeah.
take you to customize your avatar to look like that?
Oh, I don't know. I was on a creative whim one night. I think I
Uh-huh.
probably spent half hour or so.
Yeah, no.
So,
Well, you can
So
tell
how's it going,
because
Bill?
you don't
How
look
you doing, man?
templatized. You look
Pretty well,
unique, and
see,
it's like
'cause
it's
Matt,
a cool look.
Lawrence has
Anyway,
been
welcome.
the loud.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Have a
So,
seat. Back,
turn your back
back up
to
into
him.
the chair.
Yeah,
Is
guys,
the
go ahead and have a
program
seat.
starting at 6:30
Please
or the,
turn around. Have a seat.
Yeah, I think that was our target. Was roughly 6:30,
You go
but
back.
we might start a little before that since we're all.
There you are. Whoops. You're on
Well,
top.
let's give people a
Okay.
chance to show up. Maybe some of them might need a little more time.
And
I'm gonna
Lawrence,
go
you're
out
on
to-
megaphone, right?
I am. Do you
Yeah.
want me not to be?
Well, we can't really have our conversations if you're talking to us all around.
Yeah, shut up, Lawrence. Come on.
What the? There we go.
Hey, we've
Just
been
for the
friends-
time being.
Thank you for the
Steve,
thank
we've
you for
been
the
friends
gentle
for 3
reminder.
days.
I just,
Yeah,
I
man.
just went off megaphone.
Happily so. Do you want to? You know how to move around, right? You want to go to the balcony? Let's go to the balcony.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's up there.
All right. Well, I'm just walking through you. I think that's impolite, but I did it.
Did you make it?
Hey. Through you.
hello.
I think that's impolite, but I did it.
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
I'm Pablo.
Good.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Pablo.
Yeah, who
Hello.
said that?
I'm Jess.
I'm
Nice to meet
here
you.
behind you.
Hi, Jess.
Behind you. I'm
Hi.
on the balcony.
Hi.
How are you? How are you
Yeah,
doing?
look-
Are you on
look
the
this way.
Hey,
on a-
Pablo.
on a
No,
headset?
you're not on the
Oh,
balcony.
see,
You're in the
I'm right in
last
the
row.
middle of you.
Yep,
Hi,
I
Jess.
got
Well,
that.
turn around.
How are you?
West.
How are you doing? Are you on
There
the
you go.
balcony?
Your head's.
Wait,
No,
Yeah.
you're not on the balcony. You're in the
I'm
last
right in
row.
the
I'm behind you
Okay.
again. Still. Oh, turn
Ah.
around. Look, there we are.
Oh,
There you go.
Hey.
Your head's.
That's
It's the balcony.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Let's get over there.
Portal. I guess you might not be able
There
to
we
portal.
Oh,
So
there
you go.
you
might
might.
not
It's
go
the balcony. Sorry. Yeah.
You're ahead of me.
Portal.
Is it just that
Yeah.
one
Well,
portal?
you might not be there
Hey, you
for
just
portal.
came
We're
over.
really excited about
Yeah. It's the balcony.
So there's
Bring it
a,
up.
I don't know if you
No.
can
Bring it all
portal.
to
It's,
virtual
it's I
reality.
can make a.
You know, we felt
No.
we
Blue.
felt like I mean the
And then I
conference
can move.
about
So
audio
now
for
I'm
virtual
behind-
reality.
I'm on
So
the,
Hello.
I'm on the balcony.
we have to do something around that
Stop that.
topic.
Okay.
Hey, Greg.
Here I am.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Hey,
how's it
you-
going?
This is
It is
the torture of tortures. You landed right in the middle of the post, man. That's gotta hurt.
I'm in the trailer,
Oh,
and
no.
It's raining, and
Yeah, this
so
is
it's pretty loud.
pretty weird. I
so
think we're quite.
at least
We're
that's
not
what,
quite safe.
Hey, Mike.
Somebody else said that it's pretty loud
Hey, Mike.
on my
You're,
mic.
Yeah, we got-
you must be the one that's really making this all happen because when I see you, you're just really
You're at
you're
DigiCon, right?
active. You know.
I had a lot of colleagues
Right.
attending
That's
the
right.
conference.
So
I'm gonna go outside then.
Had a lot of,
Very
good
cool.
it's weird.
feedback.
Are you hearing a
And,
bunch of people
what it
talking?
worked, what it didn't work as much.
Yeah.
That's
and,
fun.
you
Yeah,
know,
there's
how
there's
things
people in
being,
this room talking.
how the
Okay.
experience can
It's
be
just
improved.
weird because they feel like they're right next to us.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, well,
I'm
You
excited
gotta
be
to
old
see
school.
what
And
it
it's
is.
remind-
Sounds like
so
you're
I'm at
definitely
Microsoft, so
doing
I'm in the mixed reality
cool.
team, and
Oh,
so I'm
Yeah.
a little bit
Right.
connected to
Do you work
Altspace.
with
Uh-huh.
audio for
and-
VR or
Yeah, I
do
think that
something different?
Altspace Audio
So I'm a
could you know, be a little bit better than it is. You know, of course,
Hi,
for
Bill.
Audio Engineering
Who said that?
Society,
Behind you.
we all kind of key
The other
in on
behind
that.
you.
But
Right here.
it works pretty well if you if you move
We're
into
really
the
looking
lobby
forward
or
to when you
whatever.
get.
Like if you
see
get
if we
further
go over
away,
there.
things attenuate
Yeah.
quite a bit. But yeah, there's a lot of bleed through.
Then
Yeah, you can see some people moving away.
now,
Yeah, they're like Pablo and Jess are still pretty loud. But if we went,
yep, that's the idea.
you know,
And when you get your head
if we went away,
down,
it would distance
I come in here to
distance attenuate, and then we'd
even
we'd be fine.
these events. Yeah.
But it's still pretty loud.
Understanding more on just where all the technology and everything's at.
Yeah, I'm
I want to get in
realizing.
there and like,
Sorry,
you know,
no, hang
help
on one
be that
second.
Yeah.
bridge.
Right?
I think it's cool.
Hygiene.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Really
And then you go
exciting.
into some really interesting.
You know, one
places,
thing I
actually.
haven't done in
So,
VR, it's actually
yeah,
attending a
it's-
concert.
It's like the whole world, especially since
Yeah.
the Burning
That's
Man
probably
got in.
something I should try soon.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they've had Reggie Watts
Yeah.
do concerts in here in Altspace, and I didn't get to any of them, but Lawrence has been to a few of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay,
Cool.
sorry about that. I had
Yeah, I
a,
recall
Sound
Lawrence talking a lot about
had
the
Zoom
yeah,
audio
concert
going at the
experience
same
in
time.
VR.
so I was
yeah.
I was hearing
We should try
I
it.
was hearing the sound from the Zoom meeting because
Absolutely.
I'm actually trying to monitor both
Hey, Jess.
meetings.
How's
Oh,
it
the
going?
Zoom and the
Yeah,
Altspace.
and I
Oh,
just
that's
didn't realize.
challenging.
Like I was
How
like,
do we do a
so
concert
that
in
was why I was like,
VR?
man, it
Hey.
just sounds like there's people right
Yeah.
next to us talking.
Yeah, have you met
Yeah,
Pablo?
it was
Dan?
just
Bad.
Zoom.
How are
Yes,
you?
have.
Yeah.
Sorry
Good
about
to
that.
meet you.
Wow.
Nice to meet you.
So are you on
We're
a,
friends now.
VR headset or are you
Yeah,
using
we
your
are.
desktop?
No, I am just doing 2D mode.
Yeah, so am I.
What's that?
What, Matt?
Oh, I was
Yeah.
wondering
Yeah,
if
for
So
the
did
Dan
you
conference-
and
set
Pablo
up
you met at
the
ABAR.
conference at all, or
I don't think so.
No,
No,
Yeah,
we didn't.
Pablo
We
was-
didn't
so
meet.
I was
meeting
involved
yet.
with it though.
Yeah, so that's
In
great.
that I helped as a volunteer
Pablo's
do
right.
live streams.
he was the papers
So
chair.
I was
yeah.
doing
Oh,
streaming
He
on
organized the
YouTube.
paper
But then I
submissions
also,
and approvals and
Yeah.
all that,
I'm a professor at DigiPen, but I'm also
the entire
the
process.
studio
Yeah.
manager there. And one of the things
Great.
that I do
Their currency.
is
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
help
ask
manage a
Jess,
team of
'cause you showed
employees
me
that,
Okay.
you
some
know,
stuff
back
about
when we
a
were
paper that happened that talked about
you know,
getting audio
meeting every day
It's
physically, we
like-
did
Hi,
things
Mike.
like
And I
we would
wish
have
I
the
just came by to
SBs
say
in
hi.
DigiPen
And thanks again for
myself and my
doing the
team
job you're
helped
doing.
set
It's
up
just so
PA,
great to make
that
this
kind of
happen.
stuff.
So
I'm assuming that's
here we go.
So we do like
Awesome.
PA kinds
Great.
of setups, but that team has kind of moved into a virtual.
I saw you got your Wise license,
think it
right?
is.
lead
Yeah,
that team.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
if
good.
there's
And
Okay.
so I was
great.
involved with
So what do you think,
What do you
Matt?
think,
Should we get
Lawrence?
rolling?
They probably are.
I was-
think we probably should.
helping and working.
Yeah, I
with
was
that
working
team.
with the guys out in the lobby, getting them, doing the thing with the mic,
Yeah.
getting people
That's great.
wired up.
You're talking about, like,
So the guy
some of the
BT
events
here,
that happen at
I think he's right
DigiPen
behind
campus
me.
where
looks like
you
I'm
bring
gonna
in
have
guest
he's on a
speakers,
Mac,
my image
you know,
and he has a good
Oh, right.
microphone with an Apollo
Those are the types of things that you
audio interface, but
Yeah, we do
it's not
that,
being
and we
recognized.
also
And I
do,
just said the fact that your Mac
concerts.
client is
So we
working
have,
at all
like,
is
a
cause
choir,
for
we have,
celebration.
a
And
jazz
when he
band,
unmutes, he can be heard, so he'll be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
participate.
a
So
student jazz band.
yeah, I
that
think maybe
do-
we should just
that
get
we
on
do
down
a
there
lot
and
of
start.
Concerts on
Good.
campus.
Let's do it.
Mike
I'm
is
gonna hop
streaming
down
here,
there.
and Mike,
There's Dibs.
I haven't checked the
band that
YouTube
played
stream,
at
but I
the,
think I'm not going to. I don't want to get
the
confused.
winery, but the old schoolhouse
Dibs, I'm waving at you.
So
last time.
okay, yeah, you were at that
Dan
event. So
Mortensen.
Yeah.
myself and my one of my employees were running the sound for that, and that was our
I disapprove.
that was our faculty jazz ensemble
yeah,
that played
you
that.
know,
I ended
So
up
that was
after
not
the
that was
go
not the
take our
student
seats.
ensemble,
immersion
but-
killing.
Looks like they're
Saturday,
starting.
Not- I'm-
caught up
I've
with
I'm
Okay.
actually
on
interested in.
Altspace. It was a recording.
Like, I'm not.
Back.
Now that I'm
I'm not
thinking
somebody
of
who
it,
has
it
a
was
lot of
Okay, well,
experience
shall I
in
stand
running
over
sound.
where I was going to be?
Uh-huh.
But,
We'll just start.
live stream.
I'm
so
curious
it's like
because,
we're
we'll
doing
amplify
today,
You know,
our
but
Altspace is
then
potentially a
brought back
platform
into
where
their
all or
world
not.
in
like,
Altspace.
struggling
They had a
artists
student
could
behind them, and they
come
passed
congregate
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and
they put
do
the Altspace
concerts
world on
Yeah.
where
Right.
just like
Yeah.
a
so you can see the person.
you know just like a
We can just
conference
do
you
all
can
that.
do
Projected
concerts
live
in
via YouTube
Altspace
in the
as
world.
long
Maybe
as
you can
the
remember to do that.
Wow.
audio reproduction
Yeah.
is
Wow.
you know good enough
So and it
such
was
that
just
it
this little
doesn't
gal with
kind of
her-
degrade
Right,
the
I'm
experience.
amplified. I'm going to make an announcement. We'll get
Um,
started.
So
Yeah.
I'd be interested
Yeah.
in picking your brain about how you think that
All
that
right,
would be
I'm
possible.
hearing Lawrence big in my ear
Yep.
here.
For sure. I'm going to add you as a friend. friend.
Take our
Yeah,
seats.
sounds
now.
great.
Okay.
Hi, Jess.
And then
Yeah, please go ahead and find a
I'm
seat.
sitting this one.
And then if you want to talk more, also we could do that via email. It looks like they're maybe getting ready to start. So let's chat more, okay?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, folks. Well, Matt, I guess we're ready to begin.
I think so.
So thank you all for coming. The fact that we have as many of you as we do here, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's hard to get people to do all of the gyrations that it takes to, just to get into the space. I hope that for those of you who haven't been in Altspace before, that by the end of the evening you will perhaps be converts like Matt and I became in using this technology just as partly just to get us through these crazy pandemic times where we're all isolated, but particularly to have an experience like this with many people in a single space. So I have to face the screen here because they just changed the way that the slides are advanced. So I have to face this way. And Matt, I'm going to let you just take it away, and I'll just tell me when you want me to advance slides.
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for being here, and hello to everybody who's seeing this on the live stream.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about the conference, AVAR 2020. How many in the audience were at AVAR 2020? I think probably most of them. You see the hand raises.
Oh, look at that.
You can probably see those in the live stream, or somebody just clapping, etc. Yeah, so it's quite a few people here. Most people here were actually at the conference. So as I was just saying in the Zoom meeting, we decided to do this in AltspaceVR. In fact, we might as well start into the next slide. The Zoom meeting talking about a little bit about AltspaceVR. You notice that we're turning around and looking at the slides because we actually can't see them on another device like you would normally in real life. That wasn't the case at AVAR. We could actually see the slides and look at the audience at the same time, and it was one of the things that we spent a lot of time with all of the presenters. Literally months we spent doing this, having meetings,
coaching them into how to make it work.
How to make it work either with an in-VR browser that was invisible to everybody else, or to have it on a laptop beside their main screen that they're looking at for Altspace, or even actually wearing a VR headset and using the in-VR browser. So it was quite a process. What happened now, that was using slides.com, which was their main, AltspaceVR's main slide deck, what would you call it, environment.
Yeah, sort of a service, a browser-based service that you'd upload PDFs to, and then they would broadcast into this space. And it had features that now that they're gone, we miss because now we're using JSON scripts.
Yeah, so we're using this kind of multimedia device now, which is not really, you can't start with a slide deck. You have to actually upload a bunch of pictures and videos. It's quite tedious, but at least it's an intermediate stage for Altspace. Hopefully in a month or two, they will graduate finally to real screen sharing in AltspaceVR, where then you can literally share any app that you have running on your screen. But
that's secret information, by the way. So they haven't. Well, they've said that they're working toward it, but it's not officially announced. So.
Well, so Altspace started as a social VR platform in 2015, as you can see up there. Ran out of funding pretty much July 2017. Then it was purchased by Microsoft in October 2017. So that's where we are today. When Lawrence and I first came in here, my heart kind of sank because I thought, okay, we've been suggested to do a conference in here, and I looked around and saw the goofy cartoonish things, and I thought.
And they were worse then. Remember, they weren't these cool avatars we have now. They were these much cruder, even more goofy avatars.
Yeah, and me being an academic and thinking of my colleagues and other people actually coming in here, I just thought this is ridiculous. There's no way anyone's going to take this seriously or have any use for this space. So we poked around a little bit, and why don't you jump a few slides, Lawrence? So we thought, well, maybe this is not even appropriate for the research community that we're targeting for the conference. But we decided to adopt it, and I'll just give a preview of that. I think the moment that I thought this is really usable and this is really doable and it had an attractive feature, was when we started to appreciate the very basic 3D audio in this space, which is distance attenuation as you move away from a source who's speaking. That doesn't work for Lawrence and I right now because we've actually overruled it with what's called the megaphone. We're all both amplified inside the space, but for chatting inside a space, which we'll practice more in AVAR lobby, as you move away from a speaker, it gets quieter. And also, as you turn your head to side, the audio pans. And just with those two very basic features, we really became convinced that this could be a hit and could work. Lawrence, why don't you say a few things?
Everything he said, it turned out to be a great way to do an online conference. As we found that we had to individually train the people who were going to participate because it wasn't obvious. Things with some of you, maybe when you entered the space tonight, I was sort of talking to you about your microphone setup or your headphone setup or your settings. So we had to do this with anyway, dozens and dozens and dozens of presenters. And but once we got the hang of it, and then once the concert ran, it really did. We were very, very pleased that we had sort of discovered something new for us, which was basically a whole new way of meeting online.
I'm going to tell a few people who are in 2D mode, which I think is most people here, that if you right-click hold and then scroll the mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out. And so, for instance, you could zoom into that fabulous picture up there in the top right corner, and you can get a nice, clear view of the picture. Maybe our live streamer will do that for us, Mike. Zoom in the picture for a second and then go back out. In any case, that's yours truly on the right. That's myself, Matt Klassen, on the right. And then in the center is Aaron Bergson, who was one of our workshops presenters. And on the left is another workshops presenter,
Andrew Champlin.
Andrew Champlin from Vive. And both Andrew and Aaron are in different VR headsets. Andrew's in a Vive, of course, and then Aaron Bergson is in an Valve Index headset. And you can see their arms are kind of floating around a little bit, and that's typical of when you see somebody in one of those VR headsets. They have actual hand movements, which we don't have. Lawrence and I are both in 2D mode right now.
But if
you
you look
see in the front row here,
there's Dan Mortensen has hands, Jess has hands. And Steve Turnage there, and Pablo Hoffman there.
Yeah. So actually, that's 5 of them there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're almost a majority, and we've found that the gestural ability really increases communications. It's not just a tagline. It really makes a difference. For Matt and me running the conference, we became somewhat addicted to 2D mode because it allowed us to have multiple computers and multiple screens doing 14 things at once, which we kind of had to do just to run the conference. But
it also made it actually possible to be online for like 12 hours in one day. There was no way we could have done it for even 4 hours in a headset, I don't think.
True. So among the things that we really were just putting on our bullet points here about things that we found impressed by the modality, if you notion of being in a 3D environment with avatars, was that natural communication, natural conversation, and I think you guys got a little taste of it before we started the presentation part here, when you're all just standing in the bleachers and talking to each other. And I was sort of struck by how quickly all of you, although many of you, since you've spent time here already, just naturally started behaving the way you would if you were with, colleagues in a room and you wanted to talk. So people start talking, and this is not possible. We haven't found this is possible, not possible in a Zoom meeting. Another thing we found. Oh, Matt, why don't you talk a little bit about ICASP? Because you attended that.
I attended just briefly. Actually, another person who's here, Pablo. Why don't you say hi for a second, Pablo? There he is.
Hey there.
In the back. Yeah, Pablo was for AVAR. He was the papers chair, so he organized the entire paper process, all of the reviewing of all the papers and acceptance and rejection and all that. So, but he was also at ICASP, right? And I think we talked
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
right.
Pablo, right? Yeah, we both were struck by how it's a fabulous world-class conference on what is the whole acronym? It's International Conference on Acoustics, Audio, and Signal Processing. Did I get that right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a fabulous conference, but this time around in May of 2020, it was a series of videos basically, and they did have some chat, which was over text, but it was all very beautifully recorded and presented, but absolutely lacked sort of the human element, the human interaction. And that's pretty much with anyone else who had been there who I talked to said, yes, it was fabulous content, but they really, really missed just hanging out and chatting with their colleagues. So
Right.
that was something that really kind of took us by surprise. We thought it was possible, but we were very surprised how well it worked inside of Altspace.
So we did have some technical challenges.
Oh, just a couple.
One or two. The thing we talked about a bit ago, slides.com, that was all we knew. We're using these new tools. They said use slides.com, so we did it. But it was cumbersome, and it was hard, and it had issues. The other big technical challenge were just the audio challenges that were presented by people coming into the space, and the type of mic they were using, whether or not they were using speakers or headphones. And we found very quickly, as I think I did with one or two of you out in the patio before the meeting started, where because of the latency, it's absolutely essential if you're in 2D mode, like many of us are, that you have headphones. And it's better to have a proper microphone that you've got some proximity that you can use, as opposed to people came in just wanting to use their laptop, like, you know, the built-in laptop mic and speakers, or a pair of earbuds. And those presented major challenges to us. Now, everybody on an actual VR hardware, like we have Quest users here, I think most of you are on Quest, or any of the VR headsets, they have built-in microphones and some kind of either extra aural speakers or headphones. So we had to walk people through that process. And in fact, I learned late in the conference that the Quest has, you Quest users probably all know this, but you have three possible settings on your microphone, whether or not you can have your audio be, I think webcam is one mode, and one mode is something about speech capture. I can't remember what it is, but there's only one of the three modes that actually works properly for this environment, and that's the one where it's using its noise cancellation, and it's the speaker array, the microphone array is actually quite directional, and it doesn't pick up any signal from your headphones. So those were some of the technical challenges that we had.
I want to jump in on this one. One of our favorite diagnostic tools was, this was really quite hilarious, because we would be helping, as Lawrence was explaining, help various people out with their mics and so on. And once in a while, there'd be multiple people in the room, and suddenly you would hear an echo, and you'd like to know where it was coming from. And basically, of course, if somebody is not using headphones, then you get this terrible feedback loop, and
with a delay.
Audio with a delay, and so essentially the way we diagnosed it, we would look at people as we're speaking, and if we would see someone's mouth moving with our words coming back at us, then we would know that person was swallowing our words and spitting them back out into the environment at us. And it was really quite hilarious, but really
it was funny.
Also a very good diagnostic tool to find where those echoes were coming from. One of the fun things we did with these technical challenges.
So what was it? 1 or 2 months of preparation with presenters in Altspace? It felt more like 3, but maybe it was only 1 or 2 months. Yeah, it was a lot of time.
I'll just kind of throw in something that's coming in other slides too. But as we worked with these people, something happened which never happens in preparing for a kind of a serious sort of semi-academic conference like this, and that is you would never get together with some of the speakers who mostly have PhDs and are pretty serious people, and come into a room and start messing around with things and just sort of laughing and having a lot of fun. These guys would come in here, they would start throwing the microphone around because they'd try to pick it up and drop it, and then they'd throw it, just this little prop beside Lawrence on the podium. They would do all
Or the
sorts
laser
of goofy
pointer.
things.
The
yeah,
laser
the laser
pointer.
pointer. And we had these people like literally giggling and just sort of having a goofy time in
Playing.
the space as
They were
playing
playing.
as they're trying to sort of get used to things, trying to overcome various technical issues, and at the same time practice their talk, practice with the InVR browser that keeps disappearing on them, and it was really it became not just technically challenging, but really quite fun actually working with these people.
Plus,
Yeah.
we got to know them much better than, we didn't have just the 3 days of the conference to know them. We had this 2 months of prep time.
Yeah, there were some teams of presenters that we probably must have spent 4 to 6 hours in here. But
Yeah.
Often, it was.
So, but even that was, we found out that again the space and partly the volume attenuation and panning, all became this catalyst for what we knew we wanted, what we got out of AVAR 2018, which was that real genuine human interaction with people. Let's see.
We covered that one already.
Okay, well, let's just keep going then.
Yeah.
What a great presentation. Who wrote this? This is brilliant. Surprising effectiveness of basic 3D audio in this space. Yeah, we were kind of talking about that, and really, it's not that complicated. It is basic panning and attenuation. So left, right, and then get quieter when you get further away. And we've probably said it too many times now. We're just struck with what an impact that has on communication in a digital space. So day one, we kind of had a train wreck, and it was actually it was probably as much my fault as it was Altspace's fault. I'll just mention briefly that these rooms have a certain capacity based on performance, because if you think of what's going on technically, even though it's avatars and not live video, there's quite a bit of back and forth with data. And so these rooms have a certain capacity, and we were told for this room in particular, which is the same room that we used for our keynote presentations and the papers and workshops, was 30 people. And we were expecting, somewhere around 200 people for the conference. So they use a feature called Front Row, which does clones the room unbeknownst to the people in it. So when you enter the space, you see the same thing that everybody in each of the cloned rooms sees, and the presenters, in this case me and Matt, we would appear in all of the rooms, even though for us it just feels like we're in one room. So it's a little bit of a Twilight Zone mind-bending
and we were
concept to begin with.
We were supposed to keep it to 30 people per room.
Which is a hard limit.
Room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had 10 of those rooms, so we had sort of a capacity of 300 people for the conference, and we did have about that many registered. Yeah.
But what happened on day one was that I had, if you see these glorious graphics behind Matt there on the wall, those are our two Emerald sponsors, which was Valve Corporation and Facebook Reality Labs. Very graciously, they were Emerald sponsors both for AVAR 2018 and for 2020. And so we said, well, we're going to put your logos up on the wall. And to do that, that's a bit of a customization that I had to do to what's called the foundational world that the space is built on. And in doing so, the days leading up to the conference, I somehow failed to re-enable the panel room for Front Row. So when the day one came of the plenary panel discussion right after the keynote, right, Matt, and people couldn't get into the room. It was a train wreck. It was pretty.
Well, the funny thing was they got over to the room, but it wasn't implementing Front Row. So everybody just packed into one room, and so it was actually kind of fun because that was the only time during the conference that we could see one of these rooms actually filled up,
actually full of people.
Yeah, it was kind of exciting, but we had to turn them all back around and go back to a different presentation space instead of the panel discussion room, so that we could actually conduct the panel on stage. And we kind of got over that, and there were a few other hiccups, but basically
we got it working. Yeah,
we got stuff working. And that was one thing that everybody, instead of kind of throwing up their hands and saying, you know, I can't take it.
I want my
anymore.
money back.
Right. They were all saying how wonderful it was that we seemed to have a workaround for everything. Which of course we had lots of workarounds in our pocket after doing this for two to 3 months. So that was fine.
So that was kind of the big dip at the beginning of the hero's journey. And then day 2, recovery. We had this great panel discussion with Valve's audio team. This is headed by Emily Ridgway, and she's the one who specifically designed the extraoral speakers on the Valve Index. And it was just a fabulous panel discussion. And we wanted to show you a little peek of what that was actually right. So I want to preface this with a meta comment. One of the technical challenges we had at the conference was the way that Altspace handled playing videos in a presentation. Those were all handled through slides.com, and it was kind of clumsy, and it wasn't very optimized apparently. But this, what you're seeing now, which is why I keep having to turn to control it. This is a JSON script, for those of you who know what that is. So it's a different media presentation software tool, but the video that I'm about to show you, it's about a minute or two long, and it's the end of the Valve audio panel discussion. But you'll notice that it'll, watch, I'm going to jinx it. It's going to play seamlessly, and the audio will be seamless as well. Here we go.
We're actually a little bit post time. I would like to thank all of our panelists for coming and joining us. Please, everyone, applaud and love. Applause and love abound. We are actually at a coffee break. So your task right now, should you choose to accept it, is to stand up here from your computer, run to your kitchen, get some hot water and tea or coffee or maybe a little snack, and then please come join us back in the AVAR lobby. Hopefully our Valve speakers will be able to continue to join us there as well and continue the conversation. And we are on coffee break from now until 11:30. So thank you all, Valve speakers, for joining us. Thanks so much to our Valve panelists and to Joy from Harman as well for joining us and having such a great conversation. And again, looking forward to seeing the rest of you around the rest of the AVAR conference.
So this is what I'm about to do. What we did many times at the conference. I would ask everybody, or Matt would ask everybody, who was able to see the video? So let me see a show of emojis for everybody who could see the video and for whom the audio was uncorrupted. I'm hoping to get 100% compliance here. Oh yeah.
Did anyone not see the video?
Did anyone not see the video or not hear the audio that came with the video both together and had it glitch or hiccup or anything? So this is inside baseball, but oh my gosh. That's just, it's, anyway, yeah. Yeah, in fact, I need to do that too. I need to go like this and then do this. Yeah, I got to do this because that makes me very happy. Okay, awesome. And then what we had was daily coffee breaks in between the events. We'd all go to people would just go to the DigiPen lobby where we're about to go and just hang out and have multiple random simultaneous conversations just like a real conference. And we had people saying exactly that. They would said, wow, this is like a real conference. And it gave us no end of pleasure. I'll go to the next slide here. Feedback ramped up is... Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say that as far as those conversations go, it really was great seeing, people like Aaron McLaren of the audio engine developer for Epic, the Unreal audio engine, and coming back and chatting with people from Valve and saying, oh yeah, I haven't seen you guys in a while, and then starting up a conversation about something that they want to collaborate on, and it was just exactly what you'd want to see and be kind of rubbing shoulders with at a real conference, a conference in person. Those are the sorts of things that you're always looking forward to. So.
Right. So day 3 was Dr. Poppy Crum of Dolby Laboratories gave an amazing keynote that for me was just one of the real highlights of the conference on empathetic technology, and it was just extraordinary.
Can I say a few things about the lead up to that?
Please.
So Poppy Crum, we had asked her to give a keynote back in,
I
I guess
January.
November.
Oh,
or something,
November.
or
Right.
It was, or maybe it was January, sometime in the winter. Anyway, it was pre-pandemic. And yes, she had said yes. Sounds interesting. And then by the time the pandemic hit, she was moving. She had all kinds of things in her life that was, they were definitely more important than communicating with conference preparation people. So she was kind of hard to get a hold of, and to say the least. And in any case, she was the last person that we got into Altspace VR before the conference. We had tried to do this with all of the speakers like a month ahead, and she was still entering Altspace VR like 3 days before the conference started. And and still kind of it takes a little bit conceptually to sort of wrap your brain around what it is you're actually going to do when you get here, sort of thing. And so the last few days were pretty much touch and go. But when she got in here, she was like probably one of the best performers in VR.
Yeah, total pro.
Of anyone.
Total
yeah,
pro.
Just a complete pro. She was concerned about every nuance of her microphone and everything. The communication with the audience, it was just absolutely stunning to see her at work here finally, and really quite gratifying, of course, that we never knew it was actually going to happen until the last minute.
I think we call that a nail biter. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Creative and goofy problem solving. Workarounds became a defining feature of this experience. Interesting about the whole notion of failure as being, essential to success. All of those problems really sort of, I would say, contributed to our experience that the thing was just a rip snorting success, because we were just overcoming problems every day.
Yeah, and I'll just add that was something that, of course, when you're in the thick of it, you're not thinking of it that way. You're thinking that these problems are things that I need to solve as quickly as possible,
right,
and get people moving forward so that they're not going to be complaining. But literally, the problem solving itself was one of the most sort of fun and crazy things that was going on, and people actually enjoyed it. They enjoyed watching us do it and helping out and everything.
Exactly. This is real-time informality was sort of the way we were characterizing the experience of it, and also the tolerance that everybody seemed to bring to the experience, because everybody knew we were all dancing on the bleeding edge. And so it wasn't like, they paid, their $600 and they flew to Redmond and they're staying in their nice hotel, and then they come to DigiPen. And when we did that in 2018, actually it was a success and everybody really liked it. But the expectations are that everything's gonna work. And then when things don't work, you're like, well, wait a minute, I paid for nobody said that, at least at our conference, or not much anyway, but that's, as a conference organizer, that's what you have to deal with. But this was, the expectation was like, is this gonna work at all? And it worked great, and so that really worked in our favor. Possible benefit. This presentation was the same presentation we gave to the DigiPen faculty at orientation last month. So we were kind of speculating on how this technology might be good for college classes, particularly small classes. Students are all on the same visual footing. I don't know if any of you are involved. Well, you're probably all doing Zoom conferences, but if anybody's involved with teaching over Zoom or Skype or Teams is quite challenging, and there are issues of privacy and issues of shyness, and whether or not people have their cameras turned on and whether they have their mics turned on, and accountability. Believe me, it's a rat's nest. And so we were thinking, well, gosh, this really solves a bunch of really nice issues, because you're actually all here and everybody's kind of on the same footing. You all have the same menu of customization for your avatar, so you can do a real number like, I got to call you out, Jess. I mean, Jess's avatar. Look at that hat. I mean, you can really take the time to make your characters look cool, or Steve's awesome jacket. And even if you just go with a default avatar, like more or less like I did, it's still, we're all kind of in the same on the same level. It isn't like I had some big budget to go to some fancy clothing store and buy a bunch of fancy clothes. So we take that away. That's sort of a leveling, if you will. Let me get my navigating here. Chat's where it at, real time. And by this we don't mean text chat. We mean actually talking to people naturally and informally. As teachers, we know that's a pretty important component of getting engagement in the classroom. people can speak naturally. That whole voice cancellation or the ducking that happens in video conferencing is kind of hard to deal with. Hey, Sally Calloway, welcome, Sally. You made it. See, I can
Hey.
tell Sally.
we know that avatar, yeah.
Sally was our co-chair on the conference, our workshops chair.
Sally
Workshops
was our
chair.
workshops chair.
Workshops chair.
Who organized the workshop presentations and oversaw that whole process. I wanted to just say one thing about that last point. This was an odd thing because when you go and meet people in a Zoom session, you know that you're sitting in your living room and you're looking at them sitting in their living room, and it certainly doesn't feel like when you finish the meeting that you were there in their living room walking around, or you were together in a different room walking around and experiencing the space. But what we found, even in this goofy, cartoonish space, is we found that when we were here having conversations with people, we remembered those conversations and the space, and it was as if we had gone somewhere, and hung out with those people, which is really quite remarkable. It had a completely different feeling than a flat screen meeting of teleconferencing meeting. It really did have that feeling of having been somewhere.
And just now I had the experience. I haven't seen Pablo Hoffman in a while. I haven't seen him in months and months, but we saw each other in this space for quite a bit over the last few months. And so just now when I saw Pablo on the patio, I'm like, oh, Pablo. He looks like Pablo. He sounds like Pablo. We're there on the patio again. It's like, oh, man, good. It's good to see you again. It's really, really very, very striking and unexpected reaction. So I think the point is that it seems to produce a physical memory. At least that's what has been our experience. I think we're about near the end of our presentation. Matt, why don't you talk about this slide here, because this is cool.
Yeah, Agnieszka Rogicka came to the conference, and she was here on the first day and gave a welcome to the attendees. And this was her reflection on the summer, and what she remembered was this was one of the biggest highlights for her in August, was coming to this conference. And we didn't really emphasize this, but having this conference, the topic, of course, is audio for virtual reality. And here we were inside virtual reality. So it really was kind of if there was any conference this summer that should have tried this, it was probably this one. So.
And we were really honored and pleased to see that the president of the AES put this out on their September newsletter. And there I just started laughing when I saw it come in my inbox and my email. It's like, oh, Matt, there's a picture of Matt. It's like, no, that's Matt's avatar. But for me now, this is, as far as I know, maybe Matt, you actually look like this now. I'm not sure anymore. But I know I look like that. So I got to change my sweater.
I've aged significantly since you last saw me.
Okay. And this is some email that we got after the conference.
Yeah, I just picked about 3 of these. Not to say that every email we got was complimentary. We got all kinds of complaints along the way, so I'm not trying to paint the wrong picture here. But what was this one? Still remembering the conversations they had, which is a mark of a good conference. So that was nice to see. People were really happy about that. And this is one of our workshops presenters. Lawrence, you like this one. Why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, it's a little hard for me to read it from here. I just wanted to send a quick message, fully engaging, honestly, over past months. Oh, yeah. So, again, I know we're harping on a thing, but it because we organized an in-person conference in 2018 and then tried to do it again in 2020, we're thwarted by a pandemic and pushed through it anyway with a lot of help from a lot of people. That it's just amazing to me, and it really gave us hope. It gave me hope that even in under really trying conditions, that we can still have this thing that you get at a conference, the best thing a good conference you come away from it, if you've ever been to one, is the people you met. And even while they're great presentations, it's the time you went out and had the beer with somebody from Germany or Japan, and then you had that great conversation about Miles Davis at 11 p.m. right? I mean, that's what you go to a conference for, and we got a taste of that here, and obviously some of the people who were there felt the same. There's one more here. Matt, why don't you talk about this one?
This is one of the AES executive team members that they really wanted to come to the conference and asked us to just let this person in, even though I think the conference at that time was closed. She was really happy to get in here and talking about various people that she hung out with. And then finally she says the lobby was really something I may never leave home again. So, a lot of fun.
And that's our presentation. Thank you very much for joining us, and for you folks watching on YouTube, thank you. I hope you're able to hear and see everything. Thank you all. It really is cool seeing the emojis. I've got to say, it's just a fun thing. So rather than hanging out here and talking, I'd like us to all go to the AVAR lobby, and I'm going to walk there so you can just follow me, because there's this cool teleporter right here by the coat room, and just follow me, and it's gonna transport us straight to the AVAR lobby. You can also get there from your My Events page.
Can we just dive in, Lawrence? Or?
Yeah, just go ahead and step on into the teleporter. Right this way. There's room for one more. Head on in. Go ahead, Pablo. Hey, Sal. Yay.
Okay, let's go.
There he goes. Go ahead, Milan. We'll see you at DigiPen. Master Turnage.
Thanks, Lawrence.
I'll be right there. Good. I'm going to join you. I just want to make sure nobody gets left behind. All right, Mike, I'm going to go, and then I'll see you there.
Actually, there's like some UI bug that makes it incredibly difficult to mute and unmute, so I'm just gonna stay unmuted and everyone else can deal with it.
Well, that's the time. This is the time to be unmuted for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can hear you, Guel. How are you, Sal? How's Vancouver?
Hey, Pablo.
It's a little chilly because it's raining, actually.
Yeah, here too. Here too. It's cold and wet here. It's cold and wet.
It's almost like summer's over.
And
I know. I could feel it in the air just before the rain hit, and it was just like my wife kept saying. She's like, "Can't you just tell it's fall?" And I'm like, "No." I was in denial.
Yeah.
And then today,
I was
is it Millen?
I was hoping to check
The leaves
on,
are starting to change
here
last week as well.
Hey guys,
so I kind of was
Pablo,
riding on that.
you're on the megaphone, and you guys should take the conversation. Yeah, you are. Take the conversation out, away from the lobby.
Yeah, thank you. Are you part of this?
Let's go down the hall, guys.
I don't think I
am.
You might just be close.
VR,
I'm happy.
AVR, all that.
Here we go.
Yeah,
So we're,
I don't know that anybody can be on megaphone without.
What's that?
I can't tell who's actually talking to me because we're all so close together.
Yeah. Well, let's spread out a little bit. Let's go back to the cafe
Let's
here.
go down the hallway. Let's.
Or maybe
is it okay talking for a minute? Actually, everybody's leaving, so we could just stay here.
We can just stay over here.
Yeah. So that's.
Let's move over in the corner, maybe.
Yes, do you know Sal? I think you guys know.
For audio.
I was thinking on.
Yes.
We sort of maybe crossed paths at the conference.
Right.
Briefly.
Yeah. To start with, I know Lawrence has
I'm looking at your thing.
As part of getting more and more familiar with AltspaceVR before the conference. So I think, that would be the place that I will start looking.
All I ever see there are open mic type situations. I don't ever see any multiple performer.
I see. Okay.
That's not to say they don't exist, but when I look, that's all I see.
That's great. Yeah, a friend of mine does it. Immersive. Are you familiar with those guys? Immersive audio.
I've gone to
immersive audio, yes. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, they're doing some really cool stuff too. But it's the time for that, you know. This is it.
So you see my name?
Yes, and I figured out the flight tool.
Oh,
in
cool.
the items. Yeah.
Ah,
So I was
nice.
definitely using that to zoom around Burning Man and stuff. Pretty cool.
Right. So how was Burning Man? I poked in after it was over, and it was just kind of desolate and kind of weird. But so I wasn't really there while people were there. But you actually were there while where stuff was going on.
Yeah, I actually jumped in during Build Week and got in some production discussions and got on the Discord channel for production. So it was like being on a festival production channel, but it was all tech
Did
talk.
you help build something? Did they have you actually do something to build it?
I am just a very beginner world builder. I don't know how to actually create my own code to build worlds, but I've just started with the kits that are available, and it's pretty cool.
She had a great presentation. She did a TTT presentation that I hope we can get on. We should get one of those for an AES meeting or something. It was fabulous. And I learned a lot of places. That Samskara place, I've taken people there all over the place. So I'll take you sometime, Lawrence, when you get in helmeted.
Get your audio working?
Yeah, I've got it. At some point, I'll get there, and it's hard after using the tools for so long in a certain way. It's like, well, it works fine, you know. But I know it's a different thing entirely.
It's like picking the guitar backwards instead of downstrokes to do upstrokes, and it's a completely difficult thing or a different tuning.
Right. Yeah.
At some point where you need to go back into Zoom, what's our
yeah. Well,
structure?
let's see what Greg says. Hey, Greg.
Greg's not saying anything here.
Greg's mute.
Greg's not speaking to us.
Oh, okay. Well, Greg, you can send me a message, Greg. Greg.
Yeah, Sally, have you spent much time in Altspace and
return to Zoom?
Not at all. I'm definitely not one of those people that engages very deeply with technology outside of my job. I work at Microsoft and I spend all day like staring at screens. So my preferred activities are like
I don't know. He just has that nice
more,
placid
like,
expression in those big gray eyes.
Going to the gym
Let me
and
see if he's
hugging
going to
my
eye
cat,
trap me.
trying to
Let's
spend
wait
more time outdoors.
Greg says
while
let's
it's
wait
not
another 5 minutes or so. I don't know
all
what's
those
going on
kinds
with
of
my
things.
audio. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We have you to thank for this, and so thank you very much. It changed our lives.
I
So
never go back.
you rule.
Thank you very much, Sally.
Matt says I will never go back. That's okay, Matt.
It was
You don't
just
have to
such a
come
group
back. You can
effort,
stay
and
here.
I'm just like
You can
so
stay here all by
happy
yourself
and proud
in
that
the-
it all came together. So like, thanks.
Drunk on Altspace.
Thank you for saying thank you, but also
Yeah, I
like,
thought
thank you to
the
everyone
presentation
else for
that
showing
was
up and
fun.
doing all
It was
those little
nice.
things.
I think we
It's the new world,
That's
you know.
important.
Give them an idea of what it was.
And I think we had the
It was great having
like
that
one of the
video,
better
too, 'cause I think that really
experiences
does
possible
give a nice
like
little
out of all the
glimpse.
conferences
And
that exist
I don't know if Scott Selfon
this
showed
year,
up, did he?
so
Yeah.
that's a
No,
really good
I mean,
benefit.
I didn't see him. I
And
don't
it's
think
as
he
bad
made
as
it.
it will ever be.
I'm looking
That's the
for.
nice thing too about evolution.
I'm curious.
Is it'll
so
never
this
be
is
worse
Mike
than
Bachman
this.
right here to my left, and I'm curious.
Oh, Mike.
How our Zoom stream.
Okay,
our,
I think
YouTube
I'm gonna
stream is gonna read.
I'm gonna leave and go back to
So-
Zoom. I think. So just
okay.
Lawrence, I'm going to go back to Zoom.
You do that, Steve. We'll join you shortly. I just talked to Greg through telepathic communication, and he said that we were going to all sort of reconvene in Zoom shortly. So maybe in another minute.
Sounds good. All right. See you, everybody.
Cool. See you, Steve.
It's so weird. He's
Yes.
not saying anything. He's just looking at us like.
As I was
I would say,
to
use your
many
hands,
meetings
Greg.
in 3GPP,
Come on,
I
use
was
sign
basically
language.
talking,
Jess, do you spend much time in Altspace?
Yeah, you could use your head.
Pandemic started, everything went
Well, the conference
I
was
won't
my
do-
first
there we go.
experience, and then
There
I
we
did
go.
Burning
There he
Man.
goes.
And
There he
since
goes. Okay.
then,
Yeah, you
He's
can at least
still alive.
give.
He's still
I've
in there.
decided
At least you can give us a yes or
I'm
no.
gonna throw
So
my birthday
Yeah.
party.
And
if I had to choose.
I just sent it,
To some extent,
and
it was a
okay.
nice
I'm looking
nice
for
thing
it.
that this
Did you receive the message? There we go.
That's cool, man. It's fun in here because we do get an international crowd. Were you at the Sylvia Massey meeting then? Is that were you at that one? The last meeting.
See about that.
No, I don't know.
I was trying to build my own world.
Yeah, we had a big crowd.
Yeah, what's his name?
Dan
Was talking about having gone to some of that.
You know,
Yeah, he didn't. I don't
Right.
think he had a
Dan
particularly
mentioned
good experience. He seemed to
Right.
think.
Totally,
And it's really,
totally.
I realize that our entire
But
usage
really,
of this
I
has
could
all
only
been
jump in maybe like
in
an
as
hour or
private
so,
events,
and it's
right?
definitely not
You know,
every
we're not
day.
we're not
You know, I
doing the
check out what
public
events
thing,
are
and
That's
as
right,
soon
they
as you
went
do,
public.
it's
Yeah.
it's a really
will
different thing as soon as you do the public,
interested, so I get the
you know,
notification, but
the
then
public
kind of
thing. It's like
Much bigger management issues.
right. I mean, you have to just deal with it differently. And in fact, just over the weekend, I was testing and I popped into a few events just to see, and there was it was kind of cool. I mean, there's a gal, you know, she was basically like open mic, and there she was playing her guitar, and she was playing her guitar and singing, you know. It was like she was just, it was like a
Did they
music
present
venue.
a video then of that, or how did that work?
No, it was just her avatar, and I don't know. I guess I can't remember now. I didn't stay long because the music wasn't that good. But the fact that she was doing it, that it worked, and there were people there and saying, giving her encouragement and all. I mean, the idea of this space as a music performance venue, you know, I mean, think about it.
I'd really like to know more about
in
that too and see what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately you'd have to.
Hi, Greg.
I would think you'd
Yeah.
want to do something that was more sophisticated from the avatar
there, Greg?
standpoint.
You know what I think would be really good for this space is an open mic poetry recitation
Ooh,
thing.
yeah, that could be.
Wouldn't
That
that be
you're
fun?
right. That would be.
Here and doing stuff.
All right.
With the virus, we haven't worked since
Send a message out to
February
all and
29th.
tell them that we're going back to Zoom. Have we had enough? Okay, he says yes. I'm going to send a message to all
I
here.
just made people like
Okay,
schedule, like,
folks,
Facebook
let's
calls with me.
go
Or
back
nice.
coffee if
to
they lived, if they
Zoom
lived, like,
Flatland.
locally.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, Matt, I know you're not going to join us, so thank you so much for you know, participating in this, and it's great to see you. Really fun. Yeah, good. Okay, I'm going to head back. Yeah, guys, I'm headed back to Zoom. So see you back there.
Thank you. That's an
We'll tell you
awesome
Great job,
idea.
you
I'm
guys.
gonna add that in my.
Oh, that's Bill,
next,
right? Yeah, Billy
alert
Bang
to
Bang.
folks.
Yeah.
Billy Bang
So you're
Bang.
going,
So, you know,
Billy Bang Bang. You head back.
Hey, I'm the first one back from the great beyond. Hey, David.
Not really.
That was pretty cool. Just watching it in 2D was cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and it's the next world for sure.
Oh, for sure. It's so next world that I'm just not there yet.
As usual, there's a lot of people still hanging out there chatting, and they're a little tardy at coming back here.
It's just like the break. Yeah.
Just like the real world.
Yeah. Where's my cookie? I want my cookie. I got my
Me
water.
too. Me too.
Could use my dinner. I haven't eaten that yet.
You're not alone.
Hello.
Welcome back, Greg.
Hi.
It's good to have working audio again. My audio, for some reason, it was working at the beginning when I went into Altspace, but on my way out at the social event, my audio for whatever reason just was not working. So I couldn't
You were
be
mute.
Is that why nobody could talk to you and you wouldn't say anything?
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything to anybody, and all I could do was nod my head or say no.
I thought you were being antisocial.
Yeah.
Well, it looked like, you know, you were asleep or something. You were sort of standing there with your head down, you know.
I swear, I was engaged.
I'm like, okay, the presenter fell asleep at the wheel here.
So I think the rest of the people are going to be back soon, or at least folks will be coming back.
Yeah, they've shut off the YouTube stream at least.
Yeah, because I'm not hearing that anymore.
So I'm just admitting everybody who shows up at the moment.
So while we're waiting, Janie, how's things going? Have you been able to find any live shows happening?
What live shows? Every place is shut down. Are you kidding? They probably won't open until next year if we're lucky. If there are any places still left. You know.
Just play in Altspace. You know, make sure you get your recording rig over there. Everything will be fine.
Well, hopefully it was way less.
I'd like to hear anybody's opinions that was watching the YouTube live stream and get some of that input while we're just sitting here.
I was watching the YouTube and I don't have a channel, so I couldn't comment, apparently. But so it was interesting. I mean, it was kind of like Saturday's Tiny Tea Time meeting. Only more organized. No slight to Jess there. But it just it was really cool to see something resembling the conference going on in the actual space where it happened, the virtual space where it happened.
I want to join that club. I want to join that club. It looked like a lot of fun.
It did.
It's headset time.
Yeah, I didn't have time to set up an AltVR account before this, so I didn't get to join that way, but I'm definitely intrigued next time for sure.
And the new Oculus that just came out is like so cheap for the value it is. I think it's back ordered a lot now, but it's out for pre-order to come in October 13th. It's like $400 now for the 4 times the power of the earlier versions. So
oh, really?
Do you have to put a can of corn in the back of your head for a counterweight?
They actually have a $50 additional head strap that you can get that has a graphene. Seriously. And another one that has a battery that balances it in there. Hey, Jess, welcome back.
Jess, I liked your avatar.
Yes, very stylish.
Yes, exactly.
Any other comments on what they saw?
The every so often there were like little bubble pop sounds, and I don't know what that was
those
all
were
about.
the applause and the hearts
emojis
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh well, okay.
Flying up out of our heads.
Yeah, whatever. They're annoying.
Okay.
Well, their appreciation for the in-world people.
Hey, there's people here.
Welcome back, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence, I'm glad we got out of there. I was getting myself in trouble.
Yeah. I think the streamer turned off the mic just before that topic. Hopefully, did any of you back here watch the YouTube stream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it work? Could you see us?
It
Could
worked.
you hear us?
Yeah.
Fine.
Worked fine.
Awesome. Great.
And when you went to the chat out in the lobby afterward, the way the engine localized people based on their position was uncanny.
You mean like
yeah.
like good uncanny
Yeah,
or
like good.
Oh, good. Oh,
And
I'm so
and
glad. That was the main thing we wanted to show. Because when you're doing it, it's really, I mean, I can't say it's just night and day. It's like you're really in a room with other people.
Yeah,
Dan's Daft Punk again.
It's like you're mingling. You're
You
going to
are,
all
and
these groups.
did you see how people just kind of? I mean, none of that was choreographed. I mean, we just everybody.
Right.
You know, there was only that wasn't that many people either. Was that maybe 15 people? But you'd see how people kind of would, and some was, oh, well, it's too loud over here. Let's walk over here.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why
Let's
we
find a
did
little
that,
corner,
right? Because
yeah.
it was like, oh, that's that guy over there. He's talking too loud. I mean, it's just weird that way. It's
I
in
talked
a
to
good
this
way.
guy from Quebec for most of the thing, but he was just standing there, and it's just like every other party. I mean, somebody's going to stand there, and somebody's going to walk up and make a fool of themselves and say, "Hi." I was that guy.
I'm gonna look for the kitchen.
Yeah, I do think for conferences that this is just it's just the way to go. Particularly
Absolutely.
for the simultaneous conversation and just natural discussion in a group. I'm actually, as a teacher, I'm really hoping I can get. Oh, Dan, that is just creepy. Man.
I fixed it. I fixed it, and now it's weird again.
Yes, it's weird.
That is so weird.
So
the invisible man.
So I noticed in the chat portion that they were that the sounds were being localized just by simple pan botting. There was no time delay, funny business, or anything like that. It was just panning.
It's plain old panning and attenuation. That's as far as I can tell. That's all. I haven't asked the developers that we don't.
I was
but I think that's all it is.
On a phase scope.
Oh, so you could actually tell then.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to share that with Klassen. He had to leave. I got to tell him that you did that. He'll get a kick out of that.
Okay.
So can you explain a little bit of that just to me, because I don't understand all of that. Do you mind? And maybe some other people here would love to hear that. I would be fascinated.
I have a Tektronix phase monitor that's just an oscilloscope with left going to one set of plates and right going to the other set of plates, and it gives you the with stereo material, it gives you the scrambled egg pattern.
And what does that? I mean, what is your interpretation of that? What does that mean again? I just haven't worked in that realm enough to know.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's mono on one channel, then you just get a straight line that modulates in length. Watch my fingers.
Yeah, I can see your hand. That's
like
good.
That.
Okay. Yeah.
For one channel, and like.
Oh, right. In like
okay.
X and Y. Okay.
Then you get the scrambled eggs, and in the past, it was really fun to watch when your mind was altered.
What does he mean? Can somebody help me understand?
Listatute patterns is
Thank
what
you.
you got there.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a stoner.
Bogart that joint, my friend.
Got it.
It's being recorded, by the way, just in case.
Just so we know.
Well, hey, it is legal here,
Yeah. So I think
and any little feet reference is totally.
Was that
great.
what that was? Was that?
It was a little feet reference.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
Actually, I think wasn't it the band that did that originally?
Don't Bogart that joint.
Yeah.
No, I think it was Little Feet.
It was a cover, maybe, actually, in the live situation. But who knows?
Yeah.
Actually, we can all find out. We have information at our fingertips.
We have the technology.
every band in the 60s did that.
But was that
so Lawrence?
Yes.
I was there. They all did
that. To continue what I was saying, then if something is panned, then the angle of the line rotates between horizontal and vertical.
Okay.
Or in between, if it's panned in between.
Okay.
And so from that, by looking at that when the source is active, you can tell whether it was panned into place or whether somebody played time delay games to pan it or whatever. If you look at like an older recording that was, say, an 8-track, where the tracks were mostly mono, you can tell just by watching the scrambled eggs where each channel is, and it's a dead giveaway that it was pan-potted 8-track or whatever.
Yeah, I wish I had something like that, Rick, in my studio, because the other day I accidentally didn't decode an MS signal properly, and if I had something like that, then it would have
seen
been
it right away.
an immediate.
There are plugins. There's like the Isotope
Yes.
Insight is fabulous, and
Right.
there's IK Multimedia, and there's just a ton of excellent VSTs right now.
But
for
as an
those.
analog guy, I prefer
Right.
a hardware scope.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a regular part of the kit back in the day.
Right. Built in the consoles even.
With the RTA as well.
Yep.
TC Electronic makes a hardware scope that I was looking at. And it's nice because you can just connect an AES digital XLR up to it, and it can do analysis things. I don't work for TC, but
Good.
No, I used to use their mastering plugin years ago, and it was
Finalizer.
No, it was what was it called? TC Master. It was just TC Master. I think it was back when they first started, but it was just a one-stop shop. It was just a great plugin that made whatever game company I was working for at the time. Everything I did, it was my Steve Turnage in a plugin in a very simplistic. You
don't need me anymore.
Well, this was back then. I should, for those of you, well, nobody knows, but I'm working on a project with Steve, and he's remastering some tracks from a project I did with David Kate and another friend of ours years ago, some years back. And anyway,
that's cool.
If you need something mastered, oh my God. So we're all just like quelling over every time he sends us the next track. We're like, it's so good. And the amazing thing is that all these tracks, which were recorded over a period of some time, so it wasn't like a 3-day session or a week-long session. It was over disjointed periods. And through the mastering process, and I know a lot of you are aware of this, but what happens is they all end up hanging together. So even though the tracks are stylistically very different, going through this mastering process, or at least the way Steve does it, they all feel like they're coming from the same record. It's an amazing thing, even though, again, stylistically, there's a lot of breadth. They're not all in the same bag musically. But it's such a joy to be able to listen to them without ever having to touch the volume knob. You just set it for the first tune, and then they have good dynamic range too. It's not a particularly compressed style for some of the tunes. So anyway,
And it's a joy to do it too. Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks for
I couldn't say enough. Well, that's changed my life. I've been very. My wife and son have seen me walking around with smiles lately. So
nice.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any questions for Lawrence about the presentation at all?
Yeah, or AVAR itself. We didn't really talk that much about the conference itself, which was the second time we've done it. It's the third AVAR conference. Really interesting content. I sat through the workshops tracks mostly. And then Matt was and Pablo were watching the papers. So the papers were very heady, scientific, mathematical, physics, acoustics.
And those are still on YouTube to stream as well. And they're really worthwhile.
And
where are they?
Just the easiest way to get to the AVAR page, which is on the AES site, is just to go to a Google window and type AVAR space 2020. AVAR space 2020. And the first hit is the page, and just click on that link. And on the home page are I think 9 or 12 links, and those are all live feeds from the conference. Every paper, I mean, AES has never done this, but because the whole thing was so unprecedented, they didn't shut us down. So we streamed just like we did tonight, live to YouTube for everything, and it's all persisted, and it's sitting there on the AVAR page, and it's publicly available. So there's Poppy Crumb's keynote address from day 3. So it's 3. Which is just amazing. You have to see her singing to a spider. Oh my gosh. A really cool presentation about empathetic technology. But all of those streams are there. And so some of them are long because there isn't like a separate link for each talk. So you can see the plenary sessions there. Each day had a keynote presentation followed by a panel discussion. So the one from Valve that we showed in the meeting just today, that's a great one if any of you are either fans of Valve or Half-Life Alyx or the Valve Index, their HDM or HMD rather, head-mounted display. Watch that panel discussion. It's really cool to hear them talk about how they actually develop both the Valve Index virtual reality hardware and the arguably the most groundbreaking VR game made to date, which is Half-Life Alyx, and they were developed simultaneously. It's kind of insane, but a really great talk. So yeah, all the talks are there, so check them out.
It's cool. Hey, Lawrence, what's the limit in terms of numbers of people that can come to a conference? Is there
You
one?
mean in AltspaceVR?
Yeah.
Well, back when we were doing this, and it's changed just since we gave the conference. Any given space, I believe, had some threshold limits of the number of users who could be in that space because of performance. That is, just the ability of the computer to compute all of the avatars and all of the audio. But I believe they have been part of the jettisoning of slides.com was to improve performance. So for any of those actually you guys here weren't there, but people at the conference know the videos were a problem. So some of the presenters had videos in their presentations, and we were so excited because one of the tests we did was I took the YouTube, the virtual haircut. If most audio people have seen it, it's fun. Just Google virtual YouTube, go to YouTube and Google or search for virtual haircut. So it's a binaural demo with a guy in a barber shop giving you a haircut, and it's a great example of spatialized audio. So you really do hear the audio all around you, and it's a funny little piece. So I grabbed that from YouTube and presented that in that room as we were testing to see if the spatialization, because now we're talking, Rick, we're talking more than just panning and attenuation now. In this space now, we're talking about a binaural signal. So we need 2 channels of audio, just left and right, just the stereo signal, to be accurately streamed from a YouTube video. And when we tested it in the space, it worked brilliantly. And we're like, wow, so we can have a conference about audio for virtual reality in virtual reality where the scientists and the workshop presenters can present binaural demos and everybody will hear it. If you like at AVAR 2018, we had to have Sennheiser. They were very gracious. They donated this wacky system of 100 wireless headphones that were on this weird, it looked like something from Lost in Space. It was like this
pre-pandemic,
big dish.
Of course.
Yeah, this was 2018, and it broadcast into the room a wireless signal of high quality, high bandwidth audio, so everybody could hear the binaural demos from our workshops presenters. Well, so we thought this time now, everybody who's at the conference, by virtue of them being there, will have the ability to hear binaural demos. Well, that would have worked, except that the video playback in Altspace was it was horrible. I mean, I would say it was maybe a third of the people could actually see the videos. So to answer Bill's question about how many people can be in a room, those are all issues that were being dealt with, and I don't know the answer. I don't know what the maximum is. I know Burning Man. Who is it? There was somebody who was in
Jess
Altspace.
was it there?
Jess. Oh, Jess. Oh, there you are, Jess. Oh, you took off your hat. You were at Burning Man. How many people were there? You're muted.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the stats. They just posted them today. And so Burning Man had moved virtual. There were 8 different universes within the Burning Man multiverse, meaning 8 different platforms, digital platforms. And so Altspace was just one universe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Of the 8 in Burning Man. Yeah, and
So VR chat was one of them?
I don't think so. There were platforms that were built from the ground up. Like there was this UK group that built this Sparkleverse, and it was just, it all had different textures and way that, they got put together. And but the one in Altspace, in my opinion, was the creme de la creme, because Burning Man was able to utilize the platform that was already in place, and to see the Altspace community and the Burning Man community like collide in this incredible, creative endeavor that will forever change the virtual reality, space. But they were saying they had over 12,400 unique users.
Wow.
Yep, and then over 90,000 total joins. And
how many days?
Yeah, it was over 8 days, I think. Yeah.
Did they charge for that?
No, it was all free. For this, there were other universes that did include fee structures if you chose to participate that way, but the one in Altspace was all free.
Yeah, and Altspace for us for AVAR was all free, no cost to us. The AES actually decided to charge people to attend. It was pretty reasonable. I don't remember. Does anybody remember how much?
$25 for members.
It was 25. So that's low enough. Matt and I argued in the run up to it as we were working with the AES execs, or the committee, or whoever it was that was approving this, or we argued we wanted there to be no fee because it didn't seem to make sense to us. But they chose to do that, and so we were like, okay, well, it is an AES conference. And
it was probably good because of it let you limit to 300, and you knew who was going to be there. Because if there was no fee, it might have been,
right. We couldn't have, and that's why I'm kind of curious about what Jess was saying about Burning Man having, these thousands of people. It's like they were very specific about what we couldn't do, not because they were trying to control us, but they just said it won't work, right?
Yeah.
If you have more than this many people in the space, it just won't work. You're going to get lag and the videos won't play. But unfortunately for us, and I'm not knocking Altspace, because I hope you can tell from our tone and our experience that we think that nothing but good things about them. But even so, I mean, the videos were just a total disaster. Like I say, it was less than half of the people could hear the videos. They just didn't play.
Oh, jeez.
And that issue was happening throughout Burning Man as well. And I saw rooms at like 45 people, 80 people. But then in the actual like Burning Man landing place, at one point I saw like 102 people. So I don't know if they had the different instances and you could just see, because it was an event, how many people were at the event.
Right.
And because I wasn't a host to any of these events, I didn't have that back page panel that you can see how many instances.
You can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw the limitations though in the different, environments, but.
Well, the presentation that we gave tonight, that slide presentation with the one video in it, that's why for me that was a big deal, and we tested it, so I knew it would work. That the video, everybody in the room, the video, that didn't drop frames and it didn't drop audio. It was just,
It was great the whole time.
It's just exactly. And I know, Dan, you lived through this through AVAR, so just all of those tests, and like the video half the time didn't work, right?
Well, you presented your problem, the initial one on the first day, as being a giant issue where the front row didn't work, and it was so inconsequential from an attendee standpoint. And the way you guys handled it was so graceful and engaging that it was not any problem. And I'm really curious what kind of negative things people said. You said you got some shit letters.
I think Matt,
I can't believe
he's such a modest guy. He didn't want to come off at all as boasting that nobody had anything but good things to say about us. The few negative things that I know about, and there were very few, was right on the first day of the conference, there were people who had Bill Gibson, no offense, who had not bothered to download and install the software and send us their username in advance. And they were complaining to the AES executives about, I paid my $25, I can't get in. And, you saw the instructions for this meeting. You saw, I'm sure, and I'm looking at most of you here at least didn't do all that, and I'm not criticizing you for not doing it. It's like, if I saw a set of instructions like that, I'm not doing it either. I mean, any one of those 14 things you need to do is enough to stop you, right? And so here were people. So people complained about that, and we just didn't take that seriously. But Matt might correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe anybody, at least that I heard of, unless it was that they couldn't get in. No, I don't think anybody complained about the glitchiness of the tech, because there we had, I mean, the expectations were low, right? It's like, if it works at all, people are happy. And then because it worked more than not just working at all. I mean, the fact that, like I say, I remember Karl-Heinz Brandenburg from, he's from Germany, from Fraunhofer. He was like, we had a series of smaller events that were run-ups to the conference. And he gave a talk at one of them. And afterwards we went to the DigiPen lobby, the AVAR lobby. And he just out of the blue, he just goes, this is like a real conference. This is just like, this is like being at a conference and talking. And it was so gratifying and validating for us to hear that. So no, there weren't, I don't know of any other negative comments other than a few people who couldn't get in.
Good. The other thing that was remarkable is how much it's changed just since your conference, as you pointed out. The Burning Man people had enough leverage that they could force a Mac version being
well, that was amazing, right? Because when we didn't mention this in the slideshow, but when we were deciding to do this, you guys might be aware, I mean, the scientific research community, they're running on Macs. Most of them have Macs or Linux machines. They're not running Windows. It's just a thing. As a game audio person, I've had to use both platforms, Mac and Windows, for over 25 years. So I'm used to that. But we were very concerned that by saying, okay, we're going to do a conference and we're going to invite all you scientists and all you practitioners, and oh yeah, sorry, Mac users, you can't participate. And that's what we had to say, because there was no Mac client. And that was another, actually, that should have been in the slides, but that was a big deal. And we didn't know, we had no other, I mean, it was that or do a kind of a,
a Zoom meeting.
A Zoom meeting. Well, now the way that you guys have done these AES Zoom meetings, especially, I don't know how many of you were here last month for the Sylvia Massey thing. We had almost 400 people here.
Exactly 400.
That I've never been to a Zoom meeting like that. So I think this committee is plowing new ground on how to use a Zoom meeting that can be actually engaging and fun, and not just, but there's a certain amount of, when it comes to conferences, you're sitting there and it's like, I could do this on YouTube, right? I could just click on YouTube links and watch YouTube. And it's better than nothing, but it's not like going to a conference.
Last week, they had Facebook Connect, which uses Venues, which is Oculus's version of AltspaceVR. And it's pretty interesting because it takes a similar embodying, and you can, when you give a thumbs up, it makes your face smile, and when you put your hands up, it makes confetti blow and all that kind of stuff. But you can go into this venue, which is like a movie theater lobby, and go into any of 6 theaters, one of which is a constant loop of a comedy club in New York, one of which is a aquarium that you can look up at, one of is the slow-mo guy. But the conference was in one where the presenter was like on a IMAX screen, and it looked really good. And you could be, you're able to talk to the people around you, and you see all these balconies in this like IMAX screen, and people are over there, and there's presentations. So it's starting to bleed out. And because again, this Facebook Oculus 2 that they've got, is they're selling it it has to be a great loss, similar to the Amazon Echoes when they first put them out. You could buy it for much less than what it would cost to actually make the thing. And so I think that Facebook is just taking over. But the way the technology is looking is it's going to be a new dimension of life, just like what we're finding in a very primitive manner with Altspace, and being in Altspace is just, it's getting better and better. And thanks to Jess showed a few places that Burning Man had some art spaces, and I found a place out in the desert in Altspace that has a list of all the different Burning Man art installations. And you click on, it's like a flip up, and there's a guy there that if you friend him, you can always go back to the avatar. And it has alphabetical. You click, the old flip ups that you'd have for phones, you'd go to the letter and push the button and flip up and you'd say, okay, this is the phone. It was that kind of a thing down the side of a bunch of information. It was numeric at the beginning, but you hit S because Jen told me about Samskara, which is an amazing like laserium experience. And poosh, this thing went off into the sky like about 40 feet high, and you go down and you click on it and you get to go into these. And it has all of the different art installations that the Burning Man situation has made. And you can come back and show people there and portal in. So I think this, again, I think one of the quotes is, this is as bad as it's ever going to be. So as it keeps on getting better and better, our imagination is it's going to outstrip our imagination really fast because we're in post-scarcity and you already have it. And not only good things, but bad things are also abundant. So we've got to really focus on the good things to bring them where we're at. And this is part of it. And I love that they're cheap enough that we might actually be able to have valid AES meetings in Altspace, just like we had a valid conference in Altspace. And I wouldn't mind like just starting there, especially if we just point to, I don't know if we point to a YouTube stream, is that enough? And then everybody else slowly starts to filter into Altspace. I mean, is that going to be enough for people to be able to see? I don't know. I'm curious.
It's a funny thing because if we hadn't been doing this conference, I probably wouldn't have gone down this path. I mean, at DigiPen, I have students who do VR games, and I'm familiar with the technology. I've been working with the Rift and the Vive, but I don't think for me personally, I would have. It's just one more complicated technology thing that I don't have time for. Right? In this case, well, we were organizing a conference, and it was like, well, we either kill it all together or we do this. So okay, let's do that. And so that sucked me in. And once you're in it, I think, Dan Mortensen, you're an example. I mean, you were like, what is this? And we said, well, this is what it is. And then the next thing we know, he goes out and buys himself an Oculus Quest. And I think you probably have you're a good example of somebody who maybe didn't think about it a whole lot before, like me, but now that you've done it, it's a kind of a game changer.
It's interesting. It's a really interesting thing in these times to be able to relate more closely than this. And speaking of that, we haven't done our introductions yet to relate to people to find out who everybody is. And I wonder if Greg wants to lead that.
Before you do that, I have a question for Steve. I was just wondering if you know if the new lower cost Oculus gear will work with Alt VR.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about it with the Oculus, it's one of the first ones that you don't have to be tethered to a computer for it to work. It's standalone, and everything that worked on the original Oculus works on this. And they also have a thing called a link, which is like a USB 3 connection that you can connect into a computer and make it as a separate headset for VR games on the computer. So it just takes Wi-Fi, and you log in with your Facebook login. And then there's an Oculus store, and you can buy and the few things, like there's a thing called Tilt Brush that made me go for this, years. That was my killer app, where you can actually paint in the air with stuff and lights and move around it, and it creates sort of sculptural paintings. And that's $20,
Well, that's great if you are not boycotting Facebook.
Exactly. If you are boycotting Facebook, then a lot of things are going to be canceled in the culture. Yeah. And a lot of people are screaming about that. But unfortunately, or fortunately, Facebook is my performance space, and I consider it a threefold nature of toy, tool, or weapon. And if you use it as a toy, that's one thing, tool. If you use it as a weapon, you want to really make sure where the hilt is and which side you're grabbing. If the other side is grabbing the hilt, then that's a different way. But weapons are used to preserve integrity, and that's the valid use of a weapon. So I at least use it as a tool, and some tools use it as well. So that's a challenge. So
yeah.
If you're given a knife, pardon me?
I was gonna say there's the Vive, which is Valve's headset that you could use instead.
Well, so the Vive is from HTC, which is a Chinese company, and it's a great headset. That's probably the longest standing one. Valve makes the Index, which is probably the king of the heap as far as audio quality. They have both the microphone array and the speaker array. I think it's actually an array, the extra speakers. So you've got Oculus Quest, Oculus Rift 2. Those are both. The Rift 2 is tethered. The Oculus Quest 2 is not. And the Oculus Quest 2 is just being released October, first, second week of October. It's
13.
Either $300 or $400, depending on the 64 gig or the 256 gig. Vive has a bunch of high-end systems. I don't know that they make an untethered system. So back to Janie's question, if the untethered thing is really nice because this is an older unit. This is from the DigiPen library, but this is an Oculus Go. So this was the original untethered, and it's only got 3 degrees of freedom as opposed to the 6DoF, I think, that the new ones have. So that's Steve there is holding up the Oculus Quest. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And the cable is a charging cable, so it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't. The cable doesn't need to be plugged in when you use it. So the untethered systems are fun once they're charged up. When I first got this, Janie, I was like, oh my god! I took it upstairs. I just handed it to my wife, and she was just in the living room upstairs. She put it on, and 45 minutes later, I came back, and she was like, she had gone fighter pilot. She was a fighter pilot, like racing, and then she was downhill skiing, and it's kind of breathtaking in that sense. But the untethered systems are nice that way. The tethered systems, you can get both higher resolution visually and sort of higher performance. So
and longer battery life, obviously.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of different.
So it's Vive, and what was the other one?
So Vive, the HTC Vive. There's the Valve Index. There's the Oculus Quest, and the Oculus Rift.
And those are all around $1,000 plus a computer.
Right. Yeah. So this is not
two
something
expensive ones are.
Now the Oculus Quest 2, which is coming out, that's literally only $300 or $400 depending on the model you get. So if I were, in fact, I'm thinking of pre-ordering one. Steve keeps.
But you're tied to Facebook with that. You absolutely have to have Facebook stuff going on.
Right.
And it's 2 weeks back ordered, I hear, Lawrence, in a month in Canada.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
Marketing question. Is anybody familiar with Pico Interactive?
Pico Interactive.
PICO.
No.
Is that the one with the 8K or?
They're a Chinese startup, and the American office is in San Francisco. My daughter is an account manager for them, and I wondered just how penetrative their effort has been. Apparently, it hasn't hit us very much up here.
Is it the VR headset?
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of VR stuff. Marketed at entertainment, marketed at education, at industry and training, and
do you have links?
They have a lot of neat tricks. I mean, she worked for all of them as a contract employee doing trade shows and whatnot, and wound up finally getting an offer from Pico. So she got a real job out of that.
That's great.
Cool.
That is really great in that business. And Pico Interactive. Google it, I guess, is all I can say. I'm not really all that familiar with the gear. I mean, she started with Oculus and had their training years ago. She worked for Oculus at South by Southwest. Back when it was all getting started, when no one really knew what the hell. And she worked for all the different guys that you're mentioning. She has done shows and expositions and, meetings. And she had the Oculus training actually down in Silicon Valley. So she's a pretty knowledgeable kid. And she wound up going with Pico, which was pretty cool. And it unloaded her from me finally.
Well, there's a huge market in China just because of the demographics and the numbers. But I know HTC, which is also a Chinese company, they one of our workshops presenters, Andrew Champlin, he was one of the 3 avatars in the photo in the DigiPen lobby, but he works for HTC, and there are software companies that are developing enterprise grade conferencing tools that use VR. And because in the Chinese economy and system, the numbers are so much greater about the adoption of this VR. So they can there's I don't know if it was a European company has another version. I don't want to say a version of AltspaceVR because AltspaceVR is a very unique thing. It was a Seattle startup, meant to be a community thing. But this is a company that's just doing enterprise-grade VR for massive global meetings, hundreds, thousands of people, all in VR. And they're already using it in China. And I'm curious, it may be that Pico is part of that thing. I don't know, but I know HTC is on that, and that's what they're doing.
I imagine they've got their toes in wherever their toes can get in.
Bill put up a link, and that stuff looks pretty interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, it does.
Shall we do intros?
I beg your pardon? You talking to me?
Shall we do introductions?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, let's shall.
Steve Turnage, I'd like to ask you to start and then maybe help
Okay,
call on people.
I can do that. This
Thanks.
is one of the things. I'm Steve Turnage. I'm a mastering engineer and I do circuit board design. I work with Pigtronics guitar pedals, and I started the drafting department at Rain Corporation originally in 1986. And we had a thing called Northwest Cyber Artists, which talked in 92 to 95, which talked about future human interfaces, which is all about what we're doing today. And it took us a while to get here, but I'm certainly thrilled that we are. So what I'm going to do is I'll call on people as I see them on my screen, and Janie.
All righty. I'm Janie Wallach, and I used to record live music. I have lots of recordings.
Put them into VR. David.
Which one?
You, David Angris.
Hi, I'm David Angris, originally from San Francisco. Got dragged down to LA because I was in this business, and finally escaped from LA and live in Portland now. Worked for a number of pro audio companies over the years at executive levels, and most of my work now is international, although that's come to a grinding halt for obvious reasons. But was the president, really the CEO and chairman of Atom Audio in Berlin, and friends and I have a mic company in LA, and I consult for a variety of firms. And now, instead of getting on planes, I just use this monitor, and camera, and mic in front of me.
I actually go into Altspace, into the DigiPen area to talk to people and have meetings. It's really, it's a joy. So potentially we can have like maybe a pro audio lobby where CEOs you can walk and bump into people. I hope that's going to be the case. Rick Chin.
I really enjoyed tonight for exactly that reason.
It's coming. It's as bad as it's ever going to be. I mean, seriously, it's all better now. Rick.
Hi, I'm Rick. I'm the webmaster of the PNW section. I also do live recording, and I'm also on hiatus. But in addition to that, I do some amount of circuit design and circuit board layout, and I'm just trying to stay busy in this downtime.
Cool.
And not
Greg
succeeding
Dixon.
well.
Oh, you're eating well?
Not succeeding well.
Oh, okay. So we're actually eating well now.
Oh, yes.
We're cooking at home every night.
People are calling it the COVID-20.
I lost 15 pounds the first week, so that was the other way around. Greg.
Hey, I'm Greg. I'm the chair of the Pacific Northwest section, and I am a professor at DigiPen Institute of Technology, where I teach sound design and music composition and audio engineering. So I've been teaching online this fall and doing a lot of meetings on Microsoft Teams, and I've been using tools like audio movers to, play back music and stuff to my students. I've been really enjoying trying to just make the most out of the situation. And I also am really interested in interactive sound. So that's kind of my specialty. And I'm currently doing music and sound design for a game that's called Rune Strike. It's made by a company called Making Fun Games. So I'm working with them. Been working on that project for about a year and a half. and we're hoping that we can ship a version of the game soon that people can play and enjoy. It should be a lot of fun.
Cool. Thank you. David Straight.
Hi, I am David Streit, and I am based in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a freelance engineer doing recording, mixing, and live sound. Just beginning to do in-person recording sessions again, slowly. That's what's going on.
Okay, thanks, man. Is Don Hartley available? I just see a empty call. There you are. I just saw your background.
Hi.
Welcome back. You're on stage.
It's good to be here. Thank you. My name's Don Hartley, and I'm an audio engineer, do recording live sound in Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas, but I grew up in Washington, and I was able to join last week for the Sylvia Massey presentation, and it was really great. So when I got the invite, I decided to check out the meeting, and it was great. Currently, I'm the Sennheiser rep for the Southern Nevada area. I rep PowerSoft and EAW, as well as Roland Pro AV and Tascam and Neumann. So pleasure to be here. Pleasure to meet everybody tonight. Really
Thanks.
cool presentation, and thanks for having me.
Welcome. We hope you keep coming back. Pardon?
What's that theater behind Don?
That one is the Hard Rock Live in Hollywood, Florida, right before a completion. It's just like, so I thought
Cool.
it kind of symbolized our state of affairs. That picture was taken in October, actually, or October of 2019. I got to be the project manager for it, and it was a complete audio and complete lighting package. And the project had to go fast. It went real fast, and it came off real nice. And
Hurry up
I'd like
and
to
wait.
see them
Yeah, I
do
was
it.
just gonna say that.
Like to see them doing some more stuff with it. Yeah.
Cool. Jess, welcome.
Hi, thanks. My name is Jess Berg. I'm a live sound engineer. Also done some studio stuff, voiceover, broadcast, corporate stuff, but been a live sound engineer for going on 17 years. Came up in Minneapolis, biggest small town you could ever be from. Cut my teeth in jazz world and wanted to get out on the road, so I moved to LA in 2013. Toured the world as a tour manager, production manager, front of house, monitor engineer. Then threw myself into grad school and decided I really missed nature and moved up to Seattle area last June, and I'm really happy to be here. I had some touring gigs. I was planning on being out on the road, but also started working at showbox venues with the AEG crew. So I was on rotation with those folks, doing monitors, mostly some front of house, and yeah, doing some corporate broadcast in between. And then now I'm also on hiatus looking at learning, actually diving into software engineering. Perhaps I'm like, do I go to boot camp now and like try to help be a bridge in this world, because I'm fascinated with VR and spatial audio world, and just kind of want to keep diving in and seeing, you know, right when everything hit, I was like, where is this technology? It needs to be deployed. We need to save the live music world. And you know, just wasn't quite there yet. So I think we're really close, though. It's exciting to be a part of. So really happy to be a part of this group, too. And just thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
You've been serving excellent to us, and you're a great boon to our group. And the stuff you've done on the TTT and everything has just been outstanding. And I want to give you personal credit and thanks so much for what you brought to our area, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. Bill Gibson.
It's Bill Gibson here. I'm a producer engineer, almost completely all drummer, which you broke me apart, but guitar player and an author, and I just, in the whole pandemic thing, it was like my publisher, you know, the whole traditional publishing world, they just stopped. And that's exactly it. Silence. Just stopped. And it made me really fed up with that. So I've ventured out and tried some self-publishing things, and now I'm in the middle of putting together my own publishing entity, and we're going to do some stuff with, I think we're going to do stuff with the Meta Alliance guys, you know, Massenberg and Chuck Ainley and all those guys. And I've been talking to John Crivet about doing a bunch of stuff. And I think we're going to kind of change the publishing model so that it's faster, better, and more revenue friendly to the authors, because in the traditional publishing world, everybody else gets a bunch and the authors get some. But you know, it's a whole new world, so I'm excited about that. It kind of forced me into that world, and I just took back my recording method from my publisher. It's like, I'm not publishing it with you, I'm doing it myself. So
good for you.
I'm living on the edge. Yeah, thank you.
Direct to fan. All right. Lawrence, we haven't heard from you tonight.
Yeah, you guys already heard my introduction, so thank you all for being here. It's just always such a joy to hear and connect the faces with the people who are in whatever way and by whatever means attracted to the PNW section here. I've been treasurer on the AES committee now for a while, and working with these people is just it's opened up a whole part of my life that I didn't even know was there. So anyway, I'm happy to be here, and thank you all for coming.
Super happy. Okay, Dan Mortensen.
Hi, I'm on the committee, and I theoretically do live sound. I just celebrated my 47th year of having my own sound company, which I can't believe in some ways. And I'm also working on the convention, which is upcoming in October, and I'm the co-chair of both the historical and live sound tracks. And also doing this thing on Saturdays that Steve referred to called the Tea Time Topics. And I counted, I think, 9 or 10 people here who have been part of it. And it's a really informal thing where somebody who is interested in showing us something comes and talks about it. And we don't necessarily have experts, but there's a bunch of people here who have presented at it, and it's a lot of fun. We're taking this Saturday off, but we start again a week from Saturday, and it's Saturday afternoon. And if you want to participate, there's a thing on our section webpage that talks about it, but that's going to be obsolete soon. But you can find my email address in the section officers list and send me a note if you want to come to it, and I'll send you the Zoom link. And thanks for doing this, Lawrence, and please tell Matt how wonderful this was. Okay.
Yeah, it's really worth. Dan is the sharp edge of the stick. Actually, he did our first he did our first Zoom meeting and defined what it was like, and he was like one of the main heavy lifters at AVAR, and he's defining this Saturday thing, and he's basically the pandemic hero in taking our world. So Jess, I mean, same way.
I got
Pardon
nothing
me?
else. I got nothing else to do.
Exactly. And so we can be ultimately grateful for the situation we find ourselves and be able to make as much lemonade as we can with lots of sugar. Lots of sugar.
Thank you.
Gary.
And honey.
Honey, I'll take honey. Gary, go for it.
I'm Gary DeLuey. I am the secretary of the Pacific Northwest section. I'm a Life AES member, and my normal job's at the University of Washington School of Music, where I do the recording, which now looks like it's turning into sound guy for videos and live streaming. We have to figure out if we can allow performers to perform without a mask or what.
Okay. Katie.
Hey, I'm Katie Gray. I'm also on the committee, and I am an architectural acoustical consultant with Stantec. Been doing that for several years. Before that, I worked in a psychoacoustics lab for Johns Hopkins, and also, I guess, a lifelong musician, or close to it. Started when I was pretty little, so violin and viola. good instruments.
Sweet. Bob Kavanaugh.
You say Bob?
Bob Kavanaugh. He's muted right now. We'll get to you next, Bob. Yeah, he's
Okay, there we go.
obviously an audio guy. Okay.
You know, it's been so long. It's hard to remember where I started. It was 73, I think. I started doing sound for a band that was pretty good in Boston, and as a result, I guess they needed a sound guy because suddenly we got a lot of work, and I thought it was fun, and the beer was free, so I stayed. You know, I had just finished a year at MIT in graduate school, and I was all burnt out on school, and free beer, you know, and peanuts was.
Who was the band, Bob?
It was a band called Small Wonder, and it's based in Boston, and we went all around New England, and mostly in Boston and Cambridge and Somerville and like that, but clubs really all around New England. We would go up to Maine in the summer and down to the Cape and go to the ski resorts in the winter. Yeah, it sounded like a lot of fun, and so I got stuck on audio and wound up touring with Orleans for part of a year. Decided I wanted to get off the road and work for DBX for a couple of years in the engineering department. Worked on some products for the Nagras, worked on the Canine card, worked on some things that didn't become products and some things that became products, but in the motion picture business, behind the screens and the sound systems for motion pictures. Worked on a 3-to-1 compander for the satellite broadcast system. Left there, went to work for Audio Techniques in New York for 4 years, wound up managing the rental company. And right after that, I don't know if he's in the same position on all of our screens, but Dave Angris. I remember I went after that, it was 82, I think it was. I left Audio Techniques and I went to San Francisco to chill and go sailing with some friends. And I met Dave Angris, and I tried to convince him to hire me.
Did it work?
No, I was too arrogant. He didn't like me at all.
It was that Boston attitude.
There you go. We're learning so much about this.
Yeah, you know, but so I went off to San Diego and did yacht sales and some other things, and you know, and anyway, I wound up at Dolby next in '85, and Dave and I reacquainted. I think he'd forgotten about our first meeting.
No.
But we reacquainted.
I couldn't afford you.
Because they were the Dolby dealer in San Francisco, so you know we saw each other quite often, and I had the good fortune to do a presentation to his people, and it was fun. After Dolby, I went to Studer for a couple of years in LA and did the Western States for Studer as a sales guy, and then the business kind of spit me out. You know, it was 1990. The studios were all closing. It was a nightmare. Nothing was selling digital. What are we going to do about that? You know, and I moved up here and became a transportation engineer. I had a civil engineering degree in graduate school in that, and I became a traffic engineer.
Up here is?
Up here, I live in Bellevue. I live in Bellevue near Seattle. And I work for WashDOT, work for the city of Bellevue, work for Renton.
Cool. Well, we're glad to have you.
And, you know, I'm so glad I went back to it. I actually had a job for the better part of 30 years and was able to raise my kids without moving every 10 minutes like the audio business was.
Excellent.
So, you know, I'm retired now. And I attend these meetings because I'm trying to keep my toe in the water, and you know I still love audio, and I have lots of systems in the house.
Yeah, if your vocation and application are aligned, you're never retired. You get a chance to keep doing stuff. Bob Gudgel.
You know, something might come up again. You never know.
This is a good place for it.
I'd like to helpfully point out that 1973 was 47 years ago.
Is that when you started your sound company, Dan?
It was.
There you are. You said, well, that was a good year to do that, as I recall.
It was. Thank you.
I think that's when Joe Biden started politics, too.
And on that note, Bob Gudgel.
Hey, kids. I'm to avoid confusion with Bob Kavanaugh, I spell my name backwards. And
that's BACKWARDS, right?
I graduated.
It's still only 2 letters, though.
That, huh?
It's still
Oh, he muted. But
And
carry on, Bob.
a computer will pronounce that Bobby, which is a dirty word in Scotland, but that's okay. So yeah, and I graduated from high school the year before Dan started his company. How about that? I was working in, yeah, I've been playing with electronics and audio since early 60s. Yeah, I worked at most of the audio companies around town are associated with it somehow until about 1994 when I got into the renewable energy business, electronics design for that stuff. So anyway, so I took, and a lot of the problems are audio problems. You know, you got to be careful of noise and just all that stuff. It's just so much I learned in audio that helped in this industry. It's really hard. Audio's easy comparatively. Anyway, so I little studio, do a little playing and writing and stuff. And see, I was been on the committee, and I was actually an AES member back in the 70s, back when we had the stereo spectroacoustics, late 70s. I would be an old fart like Gary, but eventually, maybe I think I think I have 3 more years until I can be a life member, 2 or 3. So I do a little bit of everything, done a little bit of everything, but master of none. But
okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, Vibav. Did I get that right?
Almost. Hi guys, I am Vaibhav Ahuja. I'm from New Delhi, India, and I'm just a student here, trying to find my way in audio. That's all.
What time is it there?
It's around 9 a.m. I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning to attend this.
Oh, gee.
And it's what day? Is it Thursday then?
Yeah, it's Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for making the effort, and I hope that things work out for you, man. Yeah,
Thanks for
with
joining
this.
us.
I'm so thankful for you guys for holding these meetings and keeping them for us to attend.
Check out the tea time topics thing too. That's a great another one you can join us with. A lot of us here.
And that's probably 3 a.m. for you.
Yeah.
I'll do anything for audio.
Well, we have one guy from Scotland. He stays up late.
That's right.
Okay, sweet. Now everyone shifted around because people have left. So Gary, we've talked to you. Katie, we've talked to you. Joanne Chang, are you available to introduce yourself here?
Yes. Hi, I'm Joanne Chen. I'm a audiovisual system design consultant. Currently work for an AE firm, DLR Group, in their Seattle office.
Nice.
Prior to that, I was working for Kierkegaard Associates for 17 years in Chicago. And before that, a couple years before that, I was touring with a dance company.
Nice.
So I have a technical theater background. The system I design mostly are for performance-related space.
So you're in the Seattle area now?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I moved to Seattle about 4 years now.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we're finally getting you in our AES meetings.
Thanks.
So
keep coming.
Welcome. Okay, Andy Hall.
Yes, I'm here. How is everyone?
Excellent. You have cameras. Yay.
Yeah. Going informal tonight, so I'm not don't want to be on camera, but longer than I have to be. I'm Andy Hall, Tacoma, Washington. Just trying to keep my feet in the audio world. You know, COVID-19's kind of taken a hit with everything. You know, still making a living, but you know the audio thing is kind of peripheral right now. You know, I usually work summers at T-Mobile Park, assisting with the audio there. But since they're piping in crowd noise, you know, they don't have any use for me there. So I haven't attended any games this year or anything. So it's been kind of a lean year that that thing that way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, I wonder if you're have transferable skills into large VR, places. Like going into Facebook and doing sound for their IMAXs, that kind of thing. I don't know. Because it's a very specialized understanding. So
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
these are the times. All right, Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
Gavin, do we have you? Yay. Hi,
Hello.
Gavin.
Hi, how's it going?
It's excellent.
Good. Yeah, I'm also a student. I go to DigiPen when with Professor Schwedler, Klassen, and I believe I've met Professor Dixon as well last year. But yeah, thank you so much for hosting this and allowing me to attend. I don't have very much experience with VR. I've done a little bit of like Beat Saber and some other games at like a friend's place, but it was really cool to see this virtual space, and very excited to see how it goes, both in terms of audio and just as a kind of like physical space to hold maybe classes or conferences.
Yeah, next
So,
semester, Gavin, I think we're going to do it if we can get enough of the class, everybody on
Yeah.
board. I think we might actually hold at least some of our labs in this space, because I think it'd actually be easier than doing it in Zoom.
yeah,
Sweet.
pleasure to meet you all.
And last but not least, we have Eric.
Hello, I'm also a student of Professor Schwedler and Dr. Klassen's. Going to Japan Institute of Technology, and yeah, I got an invite and just taking a peek into this little world of your guys.
Well, welcome. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was really cool to see. It's great to see the conference and the VR and how like interactive it is. It's like Zoom calls are sometimes a little awkward and strange, and it was cool to see the like live interactivity. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting going from like Flatland into Spaceland again.
Yeah.
So we're going through this Flatland world that is just so 2D. So Greg, I have exhausted the frames on my screen. I'll give this back to you, and thank you so much for letting me take my time with y'all.
Yeah, Steve, thank you so much for passing the mic around. You're good at that, and I appreciate that.
I just like everybody so much. I'm so honored to be in this crowd of people. It just makes me super happy.
We love you too, Steve.
Well, there you
Your
go.
light solo. You need a light.
Group hug. Yeah. Well, okay. Here, look. This is. Ow. I've got a light, but it doesn't work right.
Ow. Okay, where was our theatrical designer? Who's our theatrical designer? We need to get some light for this guy.
It is half. There's a halfway, but now I've got bars all over my vision. Anyway,
you can make
Light
something for
shouldn't
next
hurt,
time.
Steve.
And I got an audio question for everybody when you get a chance.
Why don't you go ahead and ask it, Bob?
Okay, well, I've been buying these just for like at work and for the living room, these El Cheapo. Well, they're not bad, actually. My laptop doesn't have a line in, right? And I've got RME fire faces and things, but something just small and portable. I bought a couple little, $15 and $30 line in, mic in, 5.1, 7.1 out, little A to D, codecs, A to D, D to A's, and it actually works pretty well. I'm surprised. But these things, they have 5.1 or 7.1 outputs, but I can't access those channels individually. I can't seem to do that. How do they do that? How do you is there some format that you have to do to access the individual outputs, or do you have to have a 5.1 or 7.1 source to get individual outputs?
Bob spelt backwards. There's another cheap little gizmo that you can buy on Amazon and any of those places that convert I don't know what your output on your device is. What is it?
They're 1/8-inch jacks.
That's it. So it's analog audio on a on stereo.
Stereo, there's a
Stereo,
front, right,
8-inch,
rear.
3 of them.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, isn't that where your signal is?
Well, the signals are there. I'm just
But
saying.
injecting into it, into
If
the
I go to
channel.
one of my multi-track DAWs or a couple DAWs, I don't see more than 2 outputs.
I guess I don't understand.
You'd have to create a bus in your DAW output that is configured to those that audio card.
Well, there's no the devices. I don't see a device for those channels. Is what I'm.
I wonder if it's a driver issue where you'd have to
Yeah.
download some kind of driver that would allow it to do that.
Oh, there probably is. Now this is a Windows machine.
Yeah. My thoughts there, Bob, are that sometimes something that can look like it's just one might be, even though it's one track, it might be a multi-channel track. So similar to how a stereo track can look like it's just a single track, but it's got 2 channels.
Yeah, or like the Dolby Pro Logic was a matrix encoded system. So in a stereo signal with phase, right? You've actually got you know, a 5.1 signals carried on a stereo signal. So, but that's matrix encoding. That's on the software side. And those
That's
are usually
what I'm afraid of. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, and then Pro Logic 2, which actually went to the discrete left and right surround channels. So, but those signals have to be encoded in software into a stereo signal that then is interpreted by a stereo system as normal stereo. It'll sound fine, but if you send it through a Pro Logic decoder, then it will decode those signals, kind of like mid-side miking, and it will actually decode it into the 5.1 channels. If that's what you got, there's no hope for you. But you only spent $30, so it's not that big a deal.
Sounds like it's a software problem, though, right? That they said.
Bob, what kind of DAW do you use?
Well, I just tried Cool Edit Pro, but that was an old one. But I have a couple other Reaper. I haven't tried Reaper, but even my sounds, you know, even the sound mixer, I would think that I would see if it was really individual channels, I would be able to see different devices that are not, you know, more than just left and right channels or front. Left and right. I just thought this was something that people had played with. You know, I haven't tried real hard to make it work, but I just haven't. Just thought I'd get some pick your brains on it. If I figure it out, I'll let you know. But I think it is a matrix encoded type of thing. I bet you.
Well, if that's the case, and I don't know if this would help or not, I was doing some research some years back about trying to record in surround and that sort of thing, and the first thing, of course, that stopped me was I didn't have a monitoring system, so one of the first things I looked at was a headphone, right? And at the time, Bayer Dynamic used to make a 5.1 headphone. Now, I don't know if they do anymore. It was outrageously expensive. It was like $2,000 or something.
No, they're totally affordable now. One of my former students who's at Epic now, Max Hayes, just said that he loves it, and he actually uses it for surround mixing. So it's a virtual surround. So this is now using HRTF and spatialization to
So
give,
when you move your head,
well, that's if it has the head tracking too, but
right.
Regardless of that, it's gonna give you perceptually through a binaural signal. It's gonna give you the idea that you've actually have virtual 5 speakers in that array, and you can actually, he says he actually uses it for checking so this is at Epic, so they're working on on games that are being mixed and deployed in a surround format, and rather than having a calibrated surround speaker system, which, as you know, you looked into it, it's expensive, and it's, you got to have the right room or you're wasting your time, right? So but you can do it with headphones now, and it's reasonable. I don't remember what the brands were, but they're out there.
Check out this my background. I caught one of the 2. I think this is the 7.1.
Oh.
Just USB, might be USB 3. I can't remember. Anyway, that's what they look like.
Cool. Well, I think that I'll go ahead and wrap things up here. I'd like to extend some thanks to some people, though, before we conclude. First of all, I'd like to thank our speakers, Lawrence Schwedler and Matt Klassen, for their great presentation.
It was fun. Thank you all.
And I'd like to thank the committee, the Pacific Northwest AES section committee, for all their help. In particular, I'd like to extend a thanks to Gary Louie, our secretary, for all of his help. I'd also like to thank Rick Chen, our webmaster, for all the help that he's been giving us, getting the meeting notices and everything out. And also Dan Mortensen, who is not here. He's been helping us with Eventbrite and handling all of those things. And just, yeah, everybody on the committee has been helping out so much, and I really appreciate just all the help. And I couldn't do this without the committee and everybody helping me along the way. So, and then finally, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. We really appreciate your presence and you taking the time to be here with us. I'll just reiterate our upcoming events as well. So on October 20th, we're doing our metadata panel. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Pacific time, October 20th. And then the next meeting after that will be November 11th, also at 6 p.m. That is going to be with Tom Fine, talking about the Mercury Living Presence recording series. So I hope that you'll join us for both of those events, and we'll keep you informed on what's coming next. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Great job, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
See you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
See you next
Take
month.
care.
Do all the co-hosts have an end button, end meeting button? Or just me?
I'm just gonna.
I think I'm a co-host.
Hey, we can have our own private little chat. Now I want to talk about some of those people.
Yeah, we should probably do it on some other conversation so we can stop this one and the recording can process.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'd like to thank the Hong Kong Fireworks Company, without whom all of this would not have been necessary.
Okay, are we ready to end?
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
night.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.